Good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, June 10th, 2026. This is a meeting of the Gloucester School Committee. We are meeting at Gloucester High School Library. The public is welcome to attend meetings in person or alternatively through the Zoom link provided on the agenda. The meeting notice will reflect that the meeting is via Zoom only. As amendments to the open meeting law allow, the school committee may continue to hold meetings remotely. Please note the in-person meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the remote. I'll call this meeting to order and state that the mission of Gloucester Public Schools is for all students to be successful in believe life. And I ask that their name is Luther. Introductions around the table, and we can start with Laura, who's online, and then we'll go to staff.
Laura Wiesen, School Committee.
Andrew Allen, Welfare Health. Paul Lundberg, School Committee.
School Committee.
Bill Melvin, School Committee.
Kathy Clancy, School Committee.
Melissa Friend, School Committee. Andrea Riaka, School Committee.
Ben Munnis, Superintendent.
Amy Pascarello, Assistant Superintendent.
John Perella, Principal, Gloucester High School. Cody Marshall, School CFO.
Mike Jarvis, Director of Special Education Services.
Then we have Laura Carlson, who's Director of Guidance. School Counseling, sorry, online as well. Here's joining Dr. Perella.
Awesome. Anybody else that we should acknowledge?
Not right now. Melissa Dine will be joining us shortly.
Okay.
In person, yeah, from Welfare.
Okay. Okay. First item of business is oral communication. Seeing that we have no one in our audience this evening. If there's anybody online that would like to speak under oral communications, now is your opportunity to do so. Raise your hand.
Nobody?
Seeing none, thank you. Next item of business is recognitions.
Just want to recognize again the students and that have spoke during this difficult budget process that really measured and respectful and did a great job putting their comments together. Really was impressive. Shout out to the GHS students who spoke.
I want to echo the same that Bill Melvin just said, that everyone that came out and spoke tonight. And I also want to recognize Rockport bus drivers, bus drivers, because I learned recently that they have been filling in for shifts for us to pick up routes that aren't being picked up by our employees. So I was very impressed to hear that our surrounding communities and other organizations in our communities are willing to step up and help us out.
Routes and alternatives.
Sorry.
Yeah. Sometimes field trips and also big help. Thank you.
Andrew?
I went to my very first season promenade and cried my eyes out at how beautiful everybody looked. That was really fun. And also I had an online Zoom meeting with two students, Ashley Patel and Scarlett Bird. They wanted to talk to me about the use of technology and AI tools. And it was a really fun and cool experience. They're doing it for one of their classes, and they may eventually make it a way to talk about the findings. So it's a really cool way to be involved in that process.
No student advisory council, because they are seniors and the upcoming seniors will not join us till the beginning of the school year. Next item is the consent agenda. Does anyone have any items they would like to remove from the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, seconded. We have to roll call vote because Laura's online.
Chair Clancy.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Melvin.
Yes.
Ms. Prince.
Yes.
Ms. Liego.
Yes.
Ms. Wiesen. Yes. Ms. Stagel.
Yes. Next item of business is deliberations on education issues and the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Folks at home. So I'll bring up a presentation here. as we like to say in the Gloucester Public School, the student learns. That was it. Every matter. Every student learns. What I want to point out on this slide is that in the center here, you see senior awards night. We recognize that as James Cook, the former principal. And current,
And Noah Poulin,
sorry, Noah Poulin.
who is my neighbor, and I've known him since he was big.
Excellent. So this is a wonderful picture. It's also almost exactly a year old, because senior awards night is Friday, and graduation, and you can see the seniors wear their capping gown or their gown to senior awards night. We'll have that on Friday. We hosted by Dr. John Prella, principal. And then you'll have a new photo from that day or from graduation, which is on Sunday. We're all rooting for good weather on Sunday. And we'll replace that photo with the one of Dr. Prella and some students. So I just want to point that out. Also recognize the seniors. As you said, promenade and prom all went well last week. Thank you to Officer Scola and others for providing cannolis when they returned. They invited me, but it's a little bit later. And I'll stay up Friday night. But everyone go back to safely, and I also appreciate for the folks who helped out, the staff there, Alison Al, Samantha Meyer, Laura Ulrich, Ben Flaherty, and I'm missing a few, but I also want to thank them for chaperoning, hosting, helping out. David Petro, of course, as well. Dave as well. Moving on, so my report. So preschool here, wonderful things happening with Heather's class, planting seeds, and also working with backyard growers there. So you know, they learn as they play. Sometimes playing requires getting dirty, which is okay, but also learning about biology. Here's an example. Here's the preschool art display, which was at, I think this is Sawyer Free Library. Okay, although, yeah, it is. But also want to appreciate the transition team. I forget the names of the two students. Can someone help me out? Jack Frady's and Jack and Nick there, helping out, and they help prep the art display. So they, Jack and Nick are at the preschool most days, almost every day, helping out in the building, helping out with the preschoolers. And appreciate the support of the preschoolers, all the progress they're making. Here's some graduates. Very helpful. Very scary. East Bend Elementary, again, as we point out, having a lot of end of the year activities. Their spring concert next week on June 18th. See the different times there for different grade levels. There will be kindergarten going on whale watch on June 22nd. Pretty fun. June 24th is field day, and then they have the clap in for 5th grade, last day of school. I want to remind everybody that June 19th is a day off, so weekly Friday is a state national holiday, Juneteenth. West Parish Elementary School, this is, if you haven't seen the American Symbols on Parade assembly or presentation extravaganza yet, pretty awesome. And that happens every year as part of their curriculum. And also, I think 5th graders help them out every year, but of course 5th graders done it when they were first graders. So I really appreciate it.
Stephanie, for the turn.
Because I was here yet, yeah. Great. And the middle school music, so I was here with Ms. Weeson. We saw it together, and others. This was the 4th through 8th grade bands performed together, separately and together, like the middle school. They started, you'll see on the right-hand side, this is the horn section in the back of the auditorium. They had them spread out in different parts of the auditorium, not on stage yet, but on stage, and that was exciting and a great way to start things off. But again, you'll see a completely full auditorium there, O'Malley. As I say all the time, our art impacts so much more than just our students. So many happy, smiling, joyous families there, tapping their feet. Some were dancing. I was not. and really enjoying themselves. That's such a, and also another thing you see, we talk about so much is our older students helping our younger students, and this is such a great example. We have middle school students supporting the elementary students. We have high school students supporting teaching and learning with the middle school students. And it's just so, it's such a gift, really. We appreciate always, especially for the elementary school, instrumental instruction and band, Gloucester Band Foundation. They're a big support. We couldn't do it without them. But it really is, these performances are just, they're just so inspiring, so much fun. So I really appreciate that great. Dave Poptowski, helping out for Carlos Menendez, and also our student instructor as well. We had a great visit, and you see the what the visit was about. You see this very colorful explanation of our multi-tiered system of support for mental health and social emotional learning. Desi is a big fan, the Department of Education, State Department are a big fan of how we are integrating a number of different grants to create a safer, healthier, more inclusive learning environment across our schools. All this work is really being organized, coordinated by Amy Cam across our schools, across grades. And you'll see in this, and this is one of the handouts, you got some really great handouts for them, as well as organizing a tremendous visit. I should have copied the agenda on the other side. I didn't. But really showed all the different pieces that how we are training our clinical staff, our teachers and staff for our students, our older students supporting our younger students, our high school students are really supporting their peers. And that's different things that like are listed here. That's active bystander intervention. So students running active bystander intervention. The concept there is when you see something that's harmful happening, you just don't stand there. You speak up, you're active, intervening or supporting your classmates. We also have students for volunteer mediation training, and they demonstrated that. And that's working with an outside partner called the Resolution Center. And then we also had teachers talking about how they're using sort of practices, and then and others as well. But just what they were impressed by is they don't see too often a district coordinating across grants, across the system, and weaving these funding sources together to have a comprehensive approach. As you all know, that's laid out in our plan for ongoing improvement. Doing it this way, and it's really taking hold. We still continue to work on this and make sure that all these practices are submitted as practice, not just the things we're doing, but really appreciate Amy and all the staff and students who shared their great work with Department of Education. And then the next day, Amy Cam on Tuesday, this is on Monday, on Tuesday, she presented at the DESI conference along the same lines. They wanted to do a presentation and a session about how Gloucester is coordinating all these multiple this is sort of what you see here, and you've heard about the presented this way, so you've heard their presentation about these pieces, but here this graphic really helps to show how they're coordinated and how we approach different levels of moving and stuff. Gloucester High School, the Elicitor. So I had the Elicitor with us tonight. Kim Vilio, who's been the long-time class advisor of it. This is the annual publication of poetry and poetry writing and photography. I will read the sort of intro from editor Miley Town, because one, it captures what the point of the Elicitor is, but also the impact of it on her and others. So, dear readers, thank you for picking up this collection of creativity. Thanks to contributors, I, as a senior, have been given one more chance to celebrate and show off the arts at Gloucester High School. GHS is filled with creativity in all forms, and the Elicitor gives people a chance to share their work. For the past 3 years, I have been able to help organize this magazine, and it has given me a space to share my love for art and creativity. Thank you, readers, for supporting the arts. And a special thank you to Mr. Virgilio for giving me a chance to do this and for supporting all my artistic endeavors. So that's sincerely, Editor-in-Chief Miley Town. And I hope you get a chance to look at it. Perhaps we can get some other copies for the school members. It's just filled with art, great art, poetry, writing, from our high school students. And another example of the impact of arts in writing, and also the impact of student leadership in terms of them being in charge of this, but also great support from our staff. Gloucester High School, another example of great staff leadership, Sean Goulart and the social department. And the things you learn in school committee. He didn't tell you all about it? No. That's great. So appreciate Sean Goulart, our social studies program leader. Worked with him and other social studies teachers for the second year in a row, working with Essex Heritage and the Resolution 250 committee. So last year, as you all know, we had the Battle of Bunker Hill in Gloucester. This year, we're having the Battle of Gloucester in Gloucester. Okay. And both last year and again this year, Sean and social teachers have brought some of the reenactors to the school. And this year, what you see there on the left and on the right, they broke into, they had every period, they had classes in there, and they divided into 4 groups, and you had reenactors presenting each group on a rotating basis. So the reenactors changed, and they had a captain of a British ship, they had a sailor of I think a colonial sailor, I believe. They had a woman who I think was perhaps a citizen community member. One more, I can't remember. But they had 5 or 6 reenactors, and 4 of them were presenting. And on the right there, you see the sailor who's in the back. He's showing them and having students try on some of the clothing, explaining the purpose of the clothing, because they're all the clothing was purpose built. Depending on what your role was, you had to, if you were on a ship, you had to make sure you were dressed your job well. So effective. Appreciate and a really good program for that. Senior clap-outs are happening at all of our schools. So West Parish was earlier this week, I believe. And you see the seniors who graduated or came through West Parish. And they're back. This is, I think, was started first by Beeman probably 4 or 5 years ago. Now all around elementary schools are doing it. And their teachers and also some students clap them out. It is a wonderful moment for our elementary school students to see the seniors come by and visit them. But it's also especially wonderful for both the seniors and their former teachers to see them. At West Parish, they have put on the name tags for each student. They've also put what they look like in 5th grade. Sometimes it's hard to figure out who's who. They've done a lot. And you can see these veterans, Funko, Beam clap-outs are all coming. Now we have a recap from the Gloucester Fishermen for their spring 2026 season. Brian put together for us. So Fishermen baseball, a great season, 17-3, advanced the Sweet 16 and the state tournament. And appreciate, and then we have some award winners. So both from the NEC, from our NEC conference. So Nico Alves was the MVP of the conference. And then Pip Emerson was all conference, and Lucas Albano and Mike Marino were all stars. So congratulations to the boys baseball team. Softball team also had a great season. They're the Lynch Division champions. They also had a 17-3 regular season record. They also advanced the state tournament. They went to the Elite 8 round before losing. And then some award winners, Abby Noble, fantastic sophomore pitcher. She's an NEC All Conference. And then Emma Pachosa, Michaela Allen, and Samantha Tucker were all stars for the conference. Well, congratulations to softball. Had a great season. They're still a young team, so we can expect more continued success next year. Boys tennis also had a very strong season. They were regular season Benjamin champions, 12-5 record. And the state tournament, they also advanced to the Sweet 16 round. And Shane Winfeld was all conference. And then Julian Nixon and Trey Bushfield were all stars. And Derek Geary was the coach of the year. The coach of the year this year.
Caputo, maybe?
This year. Oh, I know. It was Matt Swanson.
Yeah.
Wrestling. Excellent. Freshman girls tennis, strong season. They also advanced to the state tournament. They were 9-8 this season. And they went to round 32. Award winners were all-stars in the conference for Megan Buckley, Esme Saru, and Kira Buckley. And then Gap Saputo was also coach of the year. Got a lot of high-quality coaches here. Fisherman's lacrosse, 6 and 10, just missed the state tournament, with 2 close losses to Bishop Fenwick and Amesbury. On the state tournament these days, you are ranked in part based on the strength of your competition. And so, and also, and that sort of thing. And so we face some tough opponents, but didn't quite get there this time. And then Jane Ciparini and Sam Sanfilippo were all-stars. And for lacrosse, still coming out of their own, 3 and 15. I don't think they won a game until last year, so I think that's right. I'm maybe not quite sure about that, but they are growing and getting stronger. You can see team there is a good size. Maybe tripled the win total from prior season. That's what I want to get at. And also played a lot of things close. And then we have 2 all-stars, Meadow Anderson and Claire Ward. Track and field, boys track and field, 4 and 5 this season, sorry. A lot of school records broken from the number of seniors and also juniors. And they were the state decathlon team champions. With Seamus Linehan, Jeff McCarmo, and Vincent Manelli. And then Jefferson and Leo Cosentino were all conference all-stars. I think that's the last one. The girls track and field team, also great, strong team there, 6 and 3. They were also Lynch Division champions and award winners for all conference with Grace Castellucci, Carla Casera, Madison Goodhue, and Tess Taylor. Also want to recognize all-stars Madison Jewell and Hope Castellucci and Cia Donahue. And then another range coach there, David Coleman. So I think 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3 coaches of the year. All right. Any questions about anything from the update from around the picture? Okay. We're going to move now. So a few years ago, we started reporting out. Or we started doing an exit survey for seniors and then reporting out publicly about that. And tonight we've got Dr. John Ferrella and Laura Carlson to give us the very good news from about our graduating seniors.
And we also have Melissa Diamond.
Yeah. And then Melissa Diamond and Andrew Allen. Andy Allen will also talk about their work supporting our seniors. They also have some really great data as well about not only the students they work with, but also what they've been doing since they graduated. So we're the feature from you. So we'll have Dr. Ferrella go first, and then followed by.
Thank you. So this is my first year being part of this exit survey, excuse me. And there's lots of really good information on it. And I do want to add that we had a faculty meeting this week where we presented the faculty with the survey information, but we included additional questions that were asked of the students, specific to the teachers, and sort of the feedback that they gave to the teachers and sort of the school as a whole was incredibly positive. They identified 70 teachers in that survey who made a difference. And we started something this year where we identified 1 teacher who, and maybe Laura can speak to this a little bit more, because this is completely a guidance initiative. I wasn't aware of it either, but it was really valuable, and it left the faculty feeling really good about some of the work that we've done. So, Laura, I don't know if you want to add to that piece.
Yep. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
So this year, the school counselors wanted to acknowledge teachers. So part of the exit survey asks a question for the students. You know, would you like to acknowledge a teacher who made an impact on you? And the counselors really saw some really thoughtful answers this year and wanted to start a new tradition that we would present in the faculty meeting. So the counselors created a slideshow. They put some of the quotes on the slide, recognizing some of the teachers. It was interesting that every department had a teacher in it that one of the students recognized, so it was outstanding to see. And there was one teacher that had a lot of different comments, so we wanted to make them the Senior Star Hero Award. and Mr. Zach Roy, an English teacher at the high school, got that award this year. So we want to make it a tradition. I think it was meaningful to the staff, and it was really touching. So it was something we started this year. We'll continue to do it, but that is part of the exit survey. Tonight I'll talk to you more about the student part and next plans, but part of the survey is recognizing teachers and other things as well.
Thank you, Laura. Thank
Yep.
you for, I'll talk to the guidance department in the counseling department in a little bit, but that's a great, great effort. So put the presentation back up.
Sure, yeah. Thank you.
So as many of you who have been here, every year we do that exit survey. So this year for the class of 2026, I'm going to go over some of the slides. Please recognize that we still have a handful of seniors that we are going to make sure finish the exit interview before graduation practice Friday. But this is the data right now as it stands. So pathways after high school, we have just about 62% moving on to a four-year college. 17% I recognize that they will work after high school. We have just under 7% who are looking into two-year colleges. We have 5% for apprenticeship, 4.4 for military, and 3.8 for the gap year. So that slide just shows from people who answered it. Like I said, we still have a handful that we will need to get on Friday. The next slide talks a little bit.
Just 1 second here.
Yep.
What I want to just highlight here is, as folks know, we really believe deeply that our high school graduates can create really fulfilling and lives where they're contributing to the community through many paths. And there's just one right path. We try to recognize and make sure they know that there are lots of opportunities for them. And what's most important to us is that they know what the next step is and they're prepared to be successful in that. And so this is a good example of, great to see that almost 70% of our students are attending college, but also really pleased that kids have employment paths, apprenticeship paths, military going armed forces, and also planning for the after service year. Just really appreciate that broad spectrum of our approach, and I want folks to know that we value all of those. We all can create great lives. So anybody.
Do we have a way, or do you know the percentage, what the vocational PCE kids put on their survey?
So I
Is
don't
that
know,
separated?
John or Laura, do you have names associated with the survey or?
I do have names connected, but for this presentation, I don't attach names to it, but I do have names for the survey.
So I'm not looking for a name,
No,
I'm just wondering the
break it up,
percent
yeah,
where
Yeah,
the,
so,
what their answers were.
yeah, because if we have names, then we can break it up by.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can take a look at that. That'd be helpful. Sorry, Laura, go ahead.
Yep. So I do have the names. So if anyone wants it to be broken down more and pull out the vocational students, we certainly can do that. The next slide talks about the highest prevalent major this year that students identified. So STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math was the highest major that students would be going into. The next one was the business field, and then health science. So those were the three largest populations of students identifying what they were going to be studying at the post-high school level. So that was interesting to see. We have a lot of students who have recognized engineering this past year, and I'll show it in a couple of the slides about the colleges also.
If I could just add something to this, these are all great. It's really wonderful that our students are going to these fields. I do think, and it's something I have a concern with, is that our humanities is unfortunately not being recognized enough, and we haven't pushed hard enough in the humanities. And it seems to be growing consensus that civic-minded humanities is needed in our society. And even though that the philosophy and English and history majors may seem outdated, I'd like to put out there that we at the high school also are aware and are very interested in further supporting those programs as well.
One of the questions for the students is what was helpful for your post-high school planning. The school counselor had 78%. The department, one of our goals in the last couple years is to be more student facing. Every time we have a department meeting or we do professional development, the counselors want to be out there with the students. They want to be student centered. So they're really identifying that as a goal. The next one, college visits, then college planning seminars. Then SCORE, I don't know, some of you might know we used to use a program called Naviance for our career, personality, and college planning. We moved over to a program called SCORE, so that's what we use in partnership with the students. The college fair, and the last but not least, if they weren't going to a post-high school, they just would identify none.
I do want to point out the top bar here, okay, and recognize not only Laura and her leadership, okay, but Monica McDouga, Courtney Royal, Jane Cullen, and Kelly Flynn. It hasn't always been this way. But with Laura's leadership and our ability to have four school counselors there, they have improved support, improved the curriculum, improved what they're teaching, and improved students with learning, and added a number of different ways that they're connecting with students and also with families. So really, really appreciative to see that highest number is our own people. That's the way we want it. And then other pieces going here. So just really appreciate Laura's leadership and Monica, Courtney, Jane, and Kelly. Great job.
Just to add to that, the team this year built a very strong relationship with the class of 2026. The last day that the students had classes, I was in my office and I heard a rumbling out in the guidance suite. So I went out there. We had a lot of seniors out there hugging the counselors, tearing up. It was very, very special to see with this class. So it was a great, great connection the counselors made with the students. The next slide talks about what.
Sorry, I just want to be clear that hugs and tears do count as data. Sorry, Laura.
Yep. One of the questions we always want feedback on to see, what we can do for PD or what the students' needs are, what we do differently. 46% said nothing. 24% talked about preparing more for the SATs. The next one, 20.9, talked about career research earlier. I think Dr. Perlett presented last week about getting those seniors out in the community, connecting with partnerships. I think that's one thing that we can do to make sure that percentage drops down so we know they're getting exposed earlier to different things in our community and they're really able to think more about what they want to do for their next steps with respect to careers and subject matter. 17% wish they got involved more, and then 14.8 wish they took more challenging classes, and then just under 10 thought they should have visited more and applied to more colleges. So this data is extremely helpful for our department when we kind of do some surveys and look at the year and reflect and try and build our curriculum for the next year. So this is helpful for that. All right, now is the fun part. We had an extremely diverse class this year. These students were absolutely outstanding. They met frequently with the counselors. They all had certain paths, as Ben talked about, different possibilities, different ways to get there, different interests. So some of the more selective colleges are on the first slide. So as you can see, we have a Harvard student next year, Leeds College of Art. We have 2 students attending Northeastern, WPI, University of Colorado, Dartmouth, Penn State, MIT, Stevens Institute for Technology, and we have UMass Amherst. We actually have 6 students who are enrolling there next year. UMass Amherst in the last couple years has been a little more selective with students in Massachusetts, but that's the highest number of students attending college next year is 6 students going to UMass Amherst. Then Salem State, Merrimack College was the second highest. I think we have 4 students identified. We have a student going to Paul Mitchell, doing some hair and cosmetology. We have the Biotech Academy, which is one of our local partners. We're trying to build our relationship with them. Next year, hopefully, we'll have some more internship opportunities and students able to go out in the field as seniors to biotech. University of California, Santa Cruz, Salve Regina, Wentworth, and Endicott had 3 students each, so those were the third highest schools that students will be attending next year. Some more schools, Simmons, Southern University is a first for us. Monroe University, we have a student attending Clark, Hoyton, Mass Maritime, Sacred Heart, and Leslie in Simmons. We have, these are some of the standard ones with Roger Williams, University of Maine, New England Institute for Technology. So that's more of technical based school, Plymouth State, University of St. Joseph. So those are similar colleges to typical years, but New England Institute for Technology, one of the students who's going there is going to look at something in the vocational field. So it's good to see them continuing that education also. Providence College, Coastal Carolina, Flagler in Florida, Pace, Bunker Hill, Husson, Norwich, and then the Peterson School, another trade school. So another student is going to take the next step to get certified as a tradesman at Peterson School.
I think that's our third year in a row, at least, if not longer, at Coastal Carolina, which is great to see.
It's very pretty there. University of Boston, I think one of them is going to run track there. We have North Shore, who we partner extensively with, who come into the school multiple times to meet with students. Framingham State, Bryant, Curry College, I think we have a student athlete going there. Mass College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences. Mississippi State, that's a new one. I haven't seen that in my time in Gloucester. Riviera University, Gordon College, which is right around the corner from us. Nichols College, I think we have a student athlete going there. Bridgewater State, University of New England, and University of Tampa. We've had some pretty good amount of students applying there and going there in the last couple of years. And then I wanted to highlight some alternatives. As Ben said, not all students are going to go to college. That might not be their path. So we have students going to Fleet Machine. Wellspring, hopefully we'll talk about the partnership with Gordon's. Carolyn did a wonderful job with some of our students, getting them ready for the interviews. We have some students that applied material also through the help of Wellspring. We have some vocational students who are going to the Nighthawk Adult Education Program at Essex Tech, and we have some students going into the military as well. So I wanted to make sure that was highlighted as alternative plans that our students are taking as next steps.
John or Laura or committee, any questions or additional comments?
I just put to come out there that it has been our guidance department is spectacular. All the counselors do the work that we need them to do. They build really healthy, wonderful, deep relationships with students. And it doesn't just come out in obviously during the time period when they go to college. It's all year long. And we see this where students go to the guidance counselors when they have concerns about classes, their schedule, whatever it might be, or whatever issue, and the guidance counselors are advocates every day for them. So I just want to thank you, Laura. You and your team are wonderful, and it shows.
Thank you.
I'll just say also, back to what you said, it wasn't always this way. So, kind of an area of focus. A lot of parents would talk about, what they can count on. And I just think having things in place that get to students and families earlier in the process, because so many families don't know where to begin. Therefore, they can't support their children, their teenager. So this has been a terrific, people's leadership, staff there has done terrific for the past few years. And it's really remarkable about the surveys also, because clearly our staff is supportive of students. That's another thing. Absolutely, tremendous progress, and it's really they want to be.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Feel free to bring it on up. I'm Melissa Diamond. I'm the executive director at Wellspring. We had the pleasure of being here in December, and thanks so much for letting us come again to do some bookending for the year. say that Andy Allen is here too. Andy is a career-long K-12 educator, and we're really fortunate that he's at Wellspring helping us do good work in partnership with the district. I'll just really briefly remind folks how it is that we intersect with the high school, and then we're here to shed some light on the work that we do, and where the seniors that we particularly have worked with are going and what they're up to and what we're hoping for as we go on. So just to think about how we align together. So if one of the district's goals is that every student who's graduating knows what their next step is, that's our goal too. And one of the things we stress much of the time with folks who are approaching senior year and in senior years, you're not talking about the rest of your life, you're talking about your next step, what's the viable next. So our mission is to inspire folks to achieve employment and financial security. So we're looking at getting people on a pathway that's going to work over and create opportunities over time. We came to really want to do work with the high school because we were working with folks who were in their early and mid and late 20s, who were GHS grads, who were then showing up as really confused folks in their mid 20s without a lot of opportunity. So we felt compelled to say, how do we get some of our skills younger in an appropriate, successful partnership with that school. So it's taken a bunch of years. Folks know very well it's hard to have outside organizations work well inside schools. I happen to have had a career where I sort of landed on that. I had multiple jobs where I was in organizations intending to work well inside of schools, and not everybody does it well. And it takes a long time to get it to a point where it works well. So we're thrilled to make this work. Is it working well? I think it's working well. I think the results are going to improve for themselves. So it's taken a while and lots of support from James Cook and now Dr. Brella, but we currently have 2 full-time people who are on site in the high school. We have a designated space where we can meet with students when we're not in class or in shops. Okay, great. Our partnership with guidance is really where it all begins and ends. You know, we have a close relationship with Laura. She's done an amazing job over the years of helping us build relationships with the guidance team. The reason why having a space inside the high school is so important is it allows a faculty member or a counselor to say, do you know that Wellspring's here? You can meet with them, literally here, 2 folks, and you can get to know them. And so it's one of the ways that we're working with students. We have students that we work with inside classrooms. We have students that we work with inside the career tech shops. And then we have students who the way that they get to know us is that they come to the office and we do some intensive work with them without having met them ahead of time. So having those buckets is really important. Dr. Pella has been amazing, really accessible this year, and worked in the planning and further conversations with Ben and Amy. Amy further on years from now. Okay. So I already just described, we have a few different ways that we connect with students in classrooms, in the career voc tech, which has been a really big push for us this year, and then by referral. And so this just shows you who we've worked with in the senior class. We worked with almost 3% of the senior class this year, which is about what we did last year. And we think that's about right. And, you know, we'll keep at it and looking at the results and what do we think. But our goal is to be there for students who might not otherwise have viable plans without extra support. But that's our goal. If someone has a really great social network and their parents are involved and they kind of know what they're about, we're happy to help and answer questions. But we're there for students who absolutely can and should have good plans when they leave, but are struggling in some way to get to that point. And so you can see that the larger group are folks who we've met because we've been embedded inside classrooms, and that's something we're going to be meeting about late this month and throughout the summer to think about, are we in the right classrooms? Are we reaching the right students? We all are talking about wanting to have more access and more connection with multilingual learners and how we be supportive there. And this is, again, newer for us to be pushing in and being available to students in the career growth tech. So 16 seniors specifically that we work with, which we're really excited about. I actually can tell you where they're going. And then some students who who came to us by referral, actually. So the next slide is, so where are these 68 students going? And so I just quickly did a little, comparison. So compared to the class overall, 62% four-year college, 40% for us, for the students we know, 17% employment, 26% employment for the students that we're working with. In the survey from the exit survey for the students wasn't particularly pulled out, but we track trade school. Almost 20% of the students that we're working with going to a trade school. So I think what this helps to show is that we're a really good option for students to consider a full breadth of where they're going next. And especially students, it's very common that someone will walk in or get to know us and say, I'm not college material, so therefore I just got to get the job, as if those are the only two options. We know they're not. And we know that there's so many good options that may or may not be higher ed for people. So when we are thinking about the workforce, we're looking at that truly as part of a pathway. So if someone says, I'm just going to get a job, we would say doing what, earning what. But if it's a job that's in a field that's connected to something that they have training in or are interested in learning more about, or it's going to connect to a next step, then we consider that part of a viable plan, maybe with continued coaching. I actually just want to go to the last slide for a minute. And then we'll flip back. So one of the things that we're finding, and I know this is something that the district itself is working on, or we know this to be true, and then we want to understand how what our goal is. So the district has done an amazing job of building the pipeline into the career growth program, right? So now large numbers of students coming in. We had the privilege this year of co-teaching in what's called the exploratory class. Now that there are 5 tracks, there's an exploratory class where students go through the shops and get to actually be exposed before they decide. And we actually were in that experience for the first more than half of the year. So we actually got to meet every new student in CBTE. And part of that is a test for us. And meaning, is it valuable for us to get face time early with students, CBTE? And the reason why we care is because we know that students are not persisting from sophomore to junior year to senior year within CBTE the way we want. There's now a large flow in, but we don't have the numbers that we want graduating from Gloucester High through the CBTE program. And again, if we have the hat on around lots of good options out there for what your next step is after high school, we would like to see more of the students entering CBTE and completing in CBTE. It's a great option for people. But one of the biggest conversations that happens is someone might say, I don't want to be a carpenter for the rest of my life. And that's why it's the next step, right? You're not making a decision for the rest of your life. You now have a great skill to get you to a next good step, and you can do lots of things. And so we think those conversations are really important. And so as we keep planning, one question we have is, how do we get exposure to the right kids at the right time around those decisions to help them continue and persist? So thanks for landing on that, but more to come. And then one of the pieces that we talked about last time we were here, and I'll just feature it again, about 10% of the students that we work with in any given senior year move on into one of our actual scholarship programs. So we have 2 different tracks. One is re-upped annually, and then the other is actually a commitment up front for 4 years of funding. People can spread it out. They can take time off. You can use 4 years of money, years. But currently, in this next school year, there'll be 20 GHS alumni in our scholarship program across the different years. 7 are graduates right now, and they're coming into one of our scholarship programs, and 13 have been in the program for 1, 2, or 3 years. We had 2 GHS graduates who actually are graduating from college. And so we're having a celebration tomorrow for the folks who are finishing high school and the folks who are finishing college. And of the folks, we also have 4 folks from Rockport High. So we've been so fortunate through a variety of different funders, donors, people in the community to make this possible. It's a tremendous amount of money. It's $200,000 next school year, but funding 20 students who are being funded for
7.
well, 20 in the
Yeah.
KPN grads, yeah. So, and we're looking to, over time, I'm talking with the donor who found this program, and, there should be more. We should have more dollars and more students as time goes on. But our goal was to get to 20 and really think about, that's a program, that's not a pilot. And then where do we go from? One of the things, not unlike what we're hearing about how the high school tracks folks, we actually are in the middle of a major upgrade of our database so that it's going to be much more automatic for us to be connecting with alumni. So there's the 10% that finish Gloucester High and we keep going with through college because we're funding them, and part of the stipulation of that funding is you are going to continue to get advising from Wellspring. But there's the 90% of students who we knew as seniors who aren't in our scholarship program, and what are they up to? And so we have been routinely following up, but we now have been building a component out of our database that is going to have much more automatic follow-up. So when we come next time, I can much more completely say, what are those 68 students that we talked about in June actually doing? We know 10% of them because we're talking to them all the time because we're funding them. But what about the other 90%? So I'm looking forward to being able to really give you good data, not only on what did they do in their exit survey, but what about 6 months after that and the year after that and 18 months. So stay tuned, and it'll be interesting to see.
No, I just, it's a wonderful opportunity. I'll echo what once heard. I worked with Laura across the last few years. It's been fantastic to work with. Carolyn Kerwin is our career coach here, and Stacy Rogers is our academic coach. And then we have a board. Well, so kind of like 3 points for every scholarship student, but also 2 points for any individual. And more often than not, this year, I think there is 7 or 8 students going from CBTE into college, and I can speak to 2 of them that said they were not college. They were not going to go to college, that they absolutely did not see themselves. And it was a direct work with Maryland, partner with the guidance department, that really makes things come, shine through. The way I look at our work has been something that was said a long time ago, is that we highlight the work, magnify the work that's going on in the guidance department. And so we know like there's a push this year for multilingual learners. But we're going to be working with that, what that might look like, and talk to the actual teacher and say, okay, what are their needs? And how I do that. 3 or 4 of them this year that are working within our reading and writing beyond high school class are going, and they have spent a lot of time on hours communicating about the things that they want to do and how they want to do it. So I guess I would echo also the fact that we truly believe, when I was younger, a long time ago, it was, you're going to college. You're going to college because that's what you need to do in order to get it. There are so many more opportunities out there. And the local one that was mentioned tonight, like GMGI, huge opportunities, and we haven't really. So we're exposing, ramping out, and moving on. Getting into the shops has been really key because we can see the students who are freshmen asking questions already, and during portfolio days, how we build your portfolio. What is it that you need? What is the high school asking you to do? You're building a slide, you can do it. Giving them those soft skills in the freshman year to almost accelerate the maturity process of start thinking about what you want to do next.
And just to answer your question, I can tell you about our subset. So of the seniors that we worked with for the CBTE program, half of them are going to 4-year college. So just, again, I should have kind of put our assumptions at the door, right? A little bit, and assumptions I might have anyway. This can be a viable path, right? It's really depends on what that individual student wants and getting some good coaching along the way. And then the other half of folks are going directly into trades programs or working, but they're working at applied materials or Wharton or welding. So again, a job that's really directly related to doing we're thrilled to be able to do the work of helping students prep for their internship. So this was Gordon's second year hosting an intern. We prepped both interns that were, well, we prepped the students who applied. They only accept one. So we prepped the students who applied. Worked with, and I actually was at Gordon's last week talking with them about some other things and heard that maybe the student's going to continue there. Won't spoil anybody's name. But certainly it's been a really successful internship, I'll say it that way. So we're thrilled to be in that role and do more of that. So, you know, if folks are doing more career exploration in the community, we might be able to assist with some of those employer partnerships.
I remember sitting here last year and thinking, wow, who knew? Like, who knew that Wellspring House was this involved in high school? And now that I knew that, just to hear you come in second year, really, really impressive work. I think the thing that I went back and I wrote it down was the fact that you said early on, Melissa, it doesn't always work, you know, when an outside source comes into a high school. And I think this is, you know, the way, the general statement, the way public education is going, we may see more of this. And I think it's really, really encouraging that the partnership that you develop as a high school relationship. It's a lot of work. I just think it's super, super impressive. And really, really thank you.
And again, we're not here, we're here to enhance, supplement, magnify, you know, connect with students who need extra support and help them be as successful as students who don't need as much extra support. And, you know, how do we keep doing this? You know, one of the things we need to keep talking about is what are some funding opportunities? And there are funding opportunities there. There are funding opportunities where we're the lead applicant. If the district support, will be much more competitive. There are funding opportunities where if the district is the lead applicant with Wellspring support, you'll be more competitive. And so the work that I was doing immediately before being at Wellspring a while ago now, 12 years ago, at Wellspring. But I worked at Mass General in Chelsea, and Mass General and the Chelsea schools actually share a position that has been a very long-term position, and they've figured it out. And so it's been probably close to 2 decades now that they share that work, and it's again around issues that the district isn't going to handle alone by itself, but together with them. So you know, there'll be creative ways that we need and want to think about how do we keep doing it, how do we do more of it. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you. We are so fortunate to have this program in our school and that we're making an impact, especially in our community. It's very impressive. And scholarship for you. Yeah. Hopefully we'll have them.
Heather, go ahead.
I know, I want to say thank you too. I have 2 daughters that class, both involved in one's in the medical program, the other one was a mental health ambassador. She had a really hard freshman year, and Laura and Royal were godsend. Now it's really good at like 100 people. But we didn't have the support when I was in school, so I think this is amazing. And you know, they both have direction. They talk to Miss Royal probably. I think they're always in her office, to be honest with you. They're always popping in to talk about the fact that she takes them in and talks to them.
So I just want to appreciate, you know, partnerships in schools are hard. We're not built for them. It takes from both the partner organization and the school, it takes openness from the leaders, you know, to sort of enable and allow it. But then it takes, you know, great folks on the staff level, Andy, Carolyn, Kerwin, of course, Laura Carlson, and other folks are, you know, teachers and stuff, or Brendan Waslick. But you know, it's another example, one example of many. It's a great one of how we're, you know, really intertwined with the community agencies, great community organizations. And because of that, we're able to build something we couldn't do on our own. You can do on your own, we couldn't do on our own, and really do that. And it does take the coordination and a lot of work together and sorting things through. And our team, the team, they'll do that over years. So really appreciate it. And we surprise for our students in so many ways. And many times it's not just us who can do it, but we need great partnership.
And I think part of that is just listening and feedback, and it's kind of bumpy sometimes to get something started, and we're hitting a stride, and, on both sides, we're hitting a stride, and that's because we've been listening, responding to feedback. Thank you.
No, I was going to give you a comment, because I was on the Wellspring board when Melissa joined Wellspring, so, I was on there for quite a while. And the the evolution of what Wellspring does to the community has been awesome. Now, Wellspring's also always had a really important role. That role has changed in many different ways. It's still the basic role of connecting people to how they get things done. Started with housing, but then it just started with work and supporting and all that kind of things. And this is a wonderful, wonderful evolution on that. So thank you for that. I'm on the school team. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you for being.
Well, thank you, Andy. Thank you, John. Thank you, Lord Carlton. We have a little moment of transition here. We say thank you to some guests and welcome more guests up. Let's give it a moment, okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. Go ahead.
Three.
Here. First side.
You wanna go? Oh, we got a texting to I think the person from. Let's. Good night.
So. Data treatment and how we can maybe here at our elementary school. I want to take a minute to recognize who's here. We have our literacy coaches and our math coaches from the elementary school. And maybe we can introduce ourselves. You start. Jenny Cosgrove, literacy coach at Adrian McMahon, literacy coach at my parish. Melissa Francis, literacy coach at East Haven. And Kayla Clark, the literacy coach at Plum Cove, is not able to be here, but she's part of all of it. Gloucester, Kristen Parsons, math coach at East Veterans. Lisa McCarroll, coach at Westbury.
Lauren Spolani, math coach at Coach. Shannon Browse, math coach at Beeman.
Just want everyone to know that we'll always keep them separated. And math, okay, they never, at the same table, okay, big gaps. True.
No.
We have had some concerns from the audience at home that we're not speaking loud enough. So if everyone can speak up, please, because you've got one mic, it should be fine, but welcome. I'll up everybody else.
Okay. So we are going to start off with the elementary school update that we do here. And we'll start with our literacy data, then we'll start with our math data, and then we have an update with our math curriculum. And before I hand it over to our wonderful coaches, I just want to remind everybody of our long-term student achievement goal of having 80% of our students meeting and exceeding. And for our student growth.
Yeah. No. You, Stephanie, sorry, Stephanie. She's the microphone, so here we go. Sorry. Keep it going.
We good?
More.
Okay. So 80% meeting exceeding is a very lofty goal. It's a high goal. We want to get there incrementally. And 60% student growth is also high. We want to get there. You'll see spots where we can highlight real success and spots where we need to continue to work. When we look at data, academic data, I should say, we always look at DIBELS for our young readers and then E&I for our young mathematicians. We'll explain what all this is as we go forward. Star reading and math, we have from elementary all the way through high school. And then of course we look at MCAS data and access data, which is for our English language.
Today, we are focusing on the top 3. And our student growth percentiles, you've heard me say this before, but I want to make sure everybody understands. The percentiles are rating from 0 to 99, and it's comparing the student's growth over a year in comparison to like learners. So average growth, that moderate in the yellow, is to have a student growth percentile between 40 and 59 is average growth. Anything below 40, they're growing less than the average, and anything over 60, they're higher growth. So you can kind of think of it as 50% is about a year's worth of growth in a year's time. When we want our students to excel and fill gaps, we want them to grow faster than a year. So we're looking for that higher growth percentile. Now I'm going to stop talking for a minute and let the literacy coaches talk about first, what is DIBBLES? Because we talk about it a lot and not everybody knows what DIBBLES is.
So DIBBLES is dynamic indicators of basic early literacy skills, and it's brief assessments of 1 minute where the students are to or awareness skill, alphabet principles, their word reading, or reading with accuracy. So it's all 1 minute that they're done. So after that, we look at their data and we will look at the students who are in need and we place them into interventions. And the students who are in well below or below, we progress monitor them roughly around every 3 weeks. And we continue to look at that data. And if we need to adjust practices in an intervention or adjust the teaching styles in the classroom, if it's a large amount of students that need that, that's what we do. We constantly looking at the data to adjust our practices. We also use the progress monitoring to look at the individualized growth because sometimes students may be in well below, but they don't make that range to that below, but we like to look at their individualized growth. And that way we can reassure the teachers that what they're doing, paraprofessionals, that team of work of interventions, the ML teachers, the special ed, that they are still doing a great job. And the students are making gains, but they're not making gains into that other subcategory. And sometimes it could be that the student is a slow reader, and that's okay. Then we look at their accuracy, and then we also compare their things. So if they're maybe a slow reader, their score might be in red, but their star, they're 8. Yeah. So we compare that. We're constantly looking at data all the time, helping the students and what they need, making adjustments to our practices in our intervention.
Data. So you can see at the beginning of the year, I'd like to highlight kindergarten. I know you go with the numbers, but the goal is always to cut the student, the benchmark in half. So if we have intensive needs, we started at 50%. Our goal would be to cut it in half to 25%. Again, thinking only a year's time to make that growth, obviously over more time. You're constantly setting the goals for students individually, like Jenny had talked about, but our goal generally is intensive, cut in half, and strategic, cut it in half, and then get more to benchmark and above benchmark. So if you tune into kindergarten, we did that and then some. So they were 50% in intensive, and now we have 17%. So that's really exciting to see that the early intervention is really working. And it's going very well. I know at the high need schools, we had a Title I tutor, and she's been extremely consistent for us. She doesn't get pulled to sub or do anything else. So we're finding that consistency is really key. And it's been such a game changer for us. So plug for her. We've really benefited from having that this year, and it's really made a difference. And the whole K team is working really hard. Everybody's doing a great job. You can see first grade, we cut it in half. That's what we're always looking to do. So the early intervention is really where we've been trying to really focus, because there's a lot of brain research for that. It takes far less time if we get them young than it does when we wait until 4th or 5th grade. So that's really our goal. Any questions about this slide before?
Yeah. As a reminder, folks. Of course, the beginning of the year benchmark is lower, but not as demanding as the end of the year benchmark.
the expectations of all of these tests rise as they get older. So it's a harder test at the end of the year.
Yeah, it's a moving target, for sure.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So the grades fourth and fifth actually went up.
They did. You also, if you look at what we're positive, if you look, the blue is exceeding, we grew tremendously with it exceeding. The fact that the red went up is definitely something that we need to look deeper at. There are many factors. It could be move-ins, it could be it could be interrupted interventions or interrupted learning for some whatever reason.
Okay.
I shouldn't be the one speaking. I think I'm probably saying what you're gonna say.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely, we're talking about the numbers as percentages, but we really do dive deeper into our students individually and find out who's not growing and why and all of the things. So we look deeper than just saying the percentage. So, and even though they may be, as Jenny said, maybe a slower reader that this targets, then we look at their STAR data and say, oh, okay, they're making progress here. They're still comprehending, and we'll continue to work on the fluency because there's such a correlation, but we know that they're still progressing in other ways. So there's a lot that we take into account.
Yeah, and I do want to add that this is the global data of the district, grade level, for these wonderful coaches and for their teachers. They know each student's individual data, you know, as it goes throughout the year, and they're monitoring that. So even though that says 32%, I am certain that everybody knows who makes that up in their schools, and they have a deep understanding of their learning profile and what interventions they might need, and probably have some theories of why that is not working, and those are things we need to address.
Which we'll be talking about.
Which we're actually going to hear at our next school committee
Exactly.
presentation. We have some theories on that.
Do you think it's due to a lack of staff? Like, I know we made some cuts 2 years ago. Do you think staff thing has anything to do with it? Less intervention? You can answer honestly.
I'm too interventionist.
Sure.
I think it definitely has an impact. The consistency is what we've really been trying to get, and that's something that we have to continue to work on, because if our interventionists get pulled with sub, or they're too thin across grade level, and we start to shrink intervention groups, or they aren't able to meet the students daily, which frequency and duration is key to, you know, the consistency of the intervention. So there are definitely a lot of factors that play in. So I would say the consistency of staffing is huge.
And I asked because been on the committee for 20 years, and there was the longest time period with Greg Bark, and I forget who was before Greg Bark. Jane, was Jane, there wasn't anybody in between.
There's no need.
Yeah, she didn't do that. But Jane did? She did? Oh, we didn't hear about it then. It wasn't talked about. But I remember fourth grade always seemed to be the problems about the elementary schools, and this was before we did the curriculum, what do you call it? We made them all the same. Alignment. So I just didn't know if it was a fourth grade thing.
That's what they call it nationwide.
Grade is that grade though where you're starting to learn to read and you're reading from learn.
It's a big balance, more like four.
Yeah, that's hard.
And when you read to learn instead of learning to read, you do slow down.
Right.
You have to find it. That's
So there's multiple factors.
Yes.
There's definitely.
Just to make that real, I'm thinking about it, the end of year benchmark for words per minute for fifth grade is 137 words. So like I worked with a student who's in that red, who started at the beginning of the year only 50 words, is now at like 100 words. So a 50-word gain over the course of the year, ambitious growth, still considered in the red.
Okay.
Maybe
no
that
attention to
ambitious
the
growth.
No,
Well, we and not yet. So just and I just said like we and Amy, you know those students, right?
Right.
We know their students are amazing. So we can really try to celebrate that growth with teachers and
So is there another way to display the growth then? Because if you look at this, you don't see growth, right?
We're gonna see growth in
on the other
yeah,
test thing.
growth.
Okay. Got it. I'm always the one that reads the last chapter of the book. It's okay. It's good. Growth is good. Yeah.
So to sort of help mitigate that, Amy, a couple years ago,
years ago, found some really wonderful grant money and was able to allow 23 elementary staff members, educators from all different areas, Title I, special education, general education, special education coordinators, and so on, to do this 2-year course. We have committed to 2 years, and we started at the beginning of last year and just finished. 23 educators completed the letters program. It's through Legacy of Learning. It's called the Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling. It's developed by Goldman, giants in the field of literacy. And some of the topics included why reading is difficult, learning to read is rocket science. It definitely is. So is teaching it. Language processing and literacy, on children learn to read and spell, major topics of difficulty, and assessing early and often prevention and in order to which we do a lot of that early year. I feel like we've done. We've had a lot of practices in place, but this really we dove deep. And it was online course. We had online training with a live instructor, 2 sessions, Monday afternoons to everyone's chagrin, from 3:30 to 6:30, 2 Mondays in a row, and then had 8 or so weeks to complete all reading and strategy classrooms. And then we did that again with the next unit, and so on. We completed the study. And what's really great here is that all the literacy books, and we'll, on the next slide, show you some information. We had 1/3 of our kindergarten and first grade teachers participate. So kind of thinking about that and about where we're pooling some of the resources and the freshman development into those younger grades. That really, I think, hoping that's one of the factors contributed to that really great growth in KN. I'm hoping to do some more work next year with having those participants, share more. We did a little bit of sharing out in our schools, but maybe share the professional development related to what they learned in order to reach more students. So these are 23 now homegrown experts in science and teaching. And largely focused, I was going to show the name, but largely focused on KN1. And I want to remind you, our goal of 80% efficiency for the district, our kindergarten is at 71.2. That is really close as a district. It's amazing. And first grade's at 62.2. So outstanding growth and outstanding progress at our early literacy. So before I turn, I know you wanted to share the names. I wanted to point that out. And our wonderful teachers at each school, here there by name. I'll say them because it's kind of small up there. We have Adrian Rickimon, Rachel Pavaza, Melissa Desmond, Beth Murphy, and Jen Grant at West Parish. Ginny Cosgrove, LaCrae, Erin Schaldemeyer, Amy Matola, Shannon Killian, Alyssa Morrissey, and Jacqueline Novello at Beeman, Kayla Clark, Stephanie Scafini, and Sarah Scafini, sorry. What should I say? I don't know why I said Stephanie. I know Sarah, I apologize. Anna Makris, Alex Lejeune, Anna, that one I need help. Tanya, what's her name? Sarah, thank you. Melissa Francis, that's it from Cove. Melissa Francis, Peggy Brown, Bridget Reed, Margaret Ouellette, Emily LaMontagne, and Trina Sotera at East Vets. And if you notice the positions, we have literacy coaches and special ed educators, we have first grade teachers, kindergarten teachers, reading specialists, ML teachers, really special ed coordinators, I like to that, but really nice variety of experts right in our school.
Massachusetts has been considered to be behind in these kinds of reading for instruction. And at some point in the next couple of weeks or a few weeks, the state will pass a law changing reading instruction across the Commonwealth. It's not something we've been paying attention to, honestly, because we do it. And this training, which we've been doing for 2 years or more, right, is aligned with that. And so it's with wisdom. Again, we pay attention to these things, we don't have to get a whole lot of
We've been doing it since 2002.
Yeah, there you go.
We're ahead of it.
Okay.
So I have a question. Are you, does that make the, people studying education in college have more of a focus on the science of reading than they used to have? So that,
College programs, I believe, are.
yeah, I mean, you would hope that a teacher wouldn't just have to specialize. I know you can specialize in literacy as, you know, one of the areas. It would seem that they should have a big emphasis for every teacher, right?
Some colleges, they're doing better than others.
This is
Yeah.
true.
It's all,
And I think because, most of us also, it takes a long time for those changes. For them to, evaluate it or not, think about it, to be ready to then go and not, oh, this is right away, it's a law, you have to do it. And so it takes time to evaluate those programs, these service teacher programs, to then make those changes, do the coursework and so on. And so sometimes it does that. We are seeing younger teachers coming in, depending on where they've done college, and some of that knowledge, which is promising, but then we do have to do.
Yeah, just a comment and a question, I think. I've probably become the most dangerous man in America in that I've kind of become, I want to become an expert on the science of reading. Like I've spent a lot of time looking at the science of reading. And make no mistake about it, learning does not happen at any type of level without young people learning to read. That's the baseline of learning. This what I've finally figured out after a lot of study. And you can tell by looking at me, I was not and am not a great reader, but it's really important to me. The other thing that I wanted to point out is one, the dedication to the 2-year class that you take. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of work. That's
Well, it was legit. If they missed a course,
yeah.
we only had a certain number of makeups for the entire district. So if, say, I know it wasn't Melissa, but if Melissa missed a course and had to use one of the makeups, that was one somebody else couldn't use if they had a family or life event. So they really held each other accountable and stayed on it. And I don't think we used all our makeups.
I think we used 2.5. The letters people were very impressed with our attendance.
Yeah,
Actually,
they were deeply committed.
The makeup's first on Saturday, so
Yeah.
you missed it,
Great.
you have to spend it on Saturday.
I'm not there for that. But I do want to say that I'm really, really excited about not only the work you do. I think I asked Melissa one time, hey, are we using the best material for the science of reading? And she said, yeah, she said exactly what she said tonight. We've been using it since 2002. I was like, oh, guess we're ahead on that. But I just want to make the point that, and you'll see it at the last school committee meeting, the work that we're doing to improve student learning process speaks to this, the gap between progress and achievement and what we're doing to kind of, what can we do? We do all right on the progress, but the achievement end of it, we kind of struggle a little bit. What can we do to close that gap? And the grittiness of the work to get to that is phenomenal. Like, I'm just there to basically listen to really highly qualified educators talk about the science of reading and what we can do to close that gap and how impressive that is. And I think don't want to blow it up, but I think it could be something that 2 years from now, we look back on and say, wow, really glad we got into that, even though it's really difficult work. So just wanted to kind of acknowledge that, my stumbling kind of way.
Answer your question. I am not the most dangerous woman on earth. So you can keep that title over there. I'm curious about, so much of literacy in elementary school really does hinge a lot on what happens during the school day, but also what happens at home, right? Like the younger they are, the more likely you're going to have people reading to you. And maybe as you get older, that doesn't happen as frequently as you start playing baseball and going all over the place, and maybe that's not as much a part of your routine. But I'm interested to know about what about our multilingual learners and their families that may not be as proficient in English as their student is, and what that support looks like at home so that those kids continue to make progress when someone at home might not be as confident a reader in the language that we are assigning them.
Guys are always really great. Jumping.
Yeah.
We're gonna climb there.
Great.
Go back to.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. I don't want this over.
It looks like the black hole over here.
Yeah, the greens went black, they froze and then went black.
The back?
Oh, yeah,
You're back.
now I can see it, yeah.
I'm not back,
I'm not either, but I can see.
but I don't need to be.
Okay. Moving on to STAR reading assessment.
Let's remember to speak up a little bit too.
Okay.
Absolutely. So the STAR reading, as we talked about with Dibbles, it focuses on fluent grammar, phonics, and fluency. The STAR reading actually focuses on vocabulary and reading comprehension, and that's really where we dive in deeper. And the scores are what we really focus on are the scale scores and the percentile rank. This test is on a computer and it's adaptive. So the better the students do, the more it pushes them. If they're struggling, then it stays at a lower space and place. So keep that in mind. And when we review the colors, it's a very big range. And that's really important. It's always a moving target. And it's a very big range. We can have partially meeting everywhere from the 20th percentile up to the 60th percentile. And those students who are in the 60th percentile, we're not so concerned about, right? 50 is our average, 60. So even though we're seeing yellow, and it may be bigger in math, I can see them talking over there. So you'll hear that too. But then it takes them almost until the 90 something, like 92nd percentile, depending on the grade level, to get to that advanced one. So it's quite a leap to get them, especially because we have set ours at the state level, because as you know, Massachusetts has rigorous standards. So we always want to use it as something to compare to the MCAT. So all of that is factored in. And you can see the grade levels here, 2nd through 5th grade, because in literacy, we start in 2nd grade with this, because obviously you have to be able to read to be able to comprehend. So we still have a very heavy reliance on teaching phonics and teaching fluency. And then we shift gears around 3rd grade really to really dive deeper into the comprehension. Even though we're working on it, it's not quite the focus. So 2nd grade is seeing this test for the very first time. And then going into 3rd grade, that's really where we tend to dive in and see how well they're doing. So just keep that in mind. And you can see the student growth percentile, which Amy talked about in the beginning. It's really comparing them to their academic peers and seeing the growth over the year's time. So the exact same score, how much have they grown in the year? And in 2nd grade, we have 57.2%. 3rd grade, 51.9, 4th grade, 55.8, and 5th grade, 50.
So all of our grades making at least a year's worth of progress. And 2nd, almost hitting that 60 high growth target.
So really what we have to figure out, like we've talked about so many times, the growth is there. We're just not jumping the leap to get them to achieve, to be able to go to.
Right. If our growth is there, our question is, you'll hear this in a couple weeks, why are we still at 46.5% proficient, even though we have almost half higher growth? So we'll talk more about that in a couple weeks.
With answers?
Well,
No.
a lot more questions.
So
I didn't even notice that I either.
I'm sure. Go ahead, Heather.
So these tests, is this what you call the benchmarks?
Yes.
Okay,
Benchmark testing, yeah.
okay. So do you like take into consideration or like work with children that don't test well, or is that just gonna reflect poorly on them?
So there are, yes, we do. We do have accommodations for students who are in need of accommodations.
Mhm.
The literacies, this particular assessment, we try to limit those accommodations because we really want to see what they can do independently, but we'll allow them to have a separate space. We allow them to read it out loud to themselves. Obviously, you can't read it to them because then it's no longer a reading comprehension test. So that's very limited in what the accommodations can be, but yes, we do take all of those things into account. And that's why we do so many different tests. We do spelling, we do all of the subtests and nibbles, and we do the STAR. So we get a complete picture of the students, and then of course we use writing examples, and so it's not just one thing.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Missing a slide? I'm missing a slide.
Which slide? It's
The
the
slide
slide that
that-
came right before this.
Andrea asked for that.
Somebody deleted the slide. But that's okay, but I'll talk about it. I'll come. So part of the journey and the literacy next steps, we'll give you the slide when we find it again. I don't know what happened to it, but basically what we do every year, so we look at our data, but we also look at our curriculum and we listen to our teachers and what's going well in the classrooms and what are the needs. That's all part of the data meeting picture. And then at the end of every year, we do a curriculum review day, and we have representation from every grade level. We sit around a table and we talk about the strengths and the needs. And this year, the coaches decided to take a little bit of a different focus based on that feedback. And instead of really diving deeper into wit and wisdom and really diving deeper into foundation, we just said, forget curriculum. I want you to reflect on what's going well with literacy instruction and what are the needs, right? So how are you making sure that every student every day is reading enough? Every student every day is writing enough? What are the obstacles getting in the way? Are the standards actually matching the curriculum at every grade level? What are you seeing missing when it comes to teaching, and the MCAS assessment? Like if there's poetry in the MCAS, are we doing enough poetry? All of those questions kind of go into that day, and it gives an opportunity for the teachers just to sit back and reflect, ask questions, collaborate. Hey, this is what I'm doing in my classroom. This is what I'm doing in mine. Oh, that works really well. I'm going to try that. And we just don't have the opportunity to do that enough. So it was a great reflection day. But part of the curriculum implementation journey that we talked about with them was when you get a curriculum, you're tied to that curriculum the first couple of years. You are glued to your guide. You're following it step by step. You have to do every single thing. Then 2 or 3 years, you start to make it your own. You feel really comfortable. And then what we say goes into the innovation and refinement. You don't want to get into the danger zone, because what happens is you get really comfortable and you say, I don't like this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't working for me. I don't have time for that. And then it becomes a skeleton. So that's why we have these curriculum review days, so that we can make sure that it doesn't end up being a skeleton, formerly known as Reading Street. We don't want that to happen here. So we spent a lot of time making sure that we're constantly getting the feedback from the teachers and then improving the practice. So it goes beyond just our curriculums. It goes about reflection and just every day. So we know now, based on those conversations, that we have to make sure that the students are reading more every day, because as great as Wit and Wisdom is, it tends to be a lot of discussion in the whole group. So we're missing that 20 minutes of reading every single day for all students all the time. And writing fluency is a huge key indicator. We're doing a lot more keyboarding because of the test. So we need to find time that they have that opportunity to do the writing fluency every single day. So yes, it's a lot about data, but it's a lot about our practice and reflection and instruction.
So which leads into literacy leaders, which changed the structure this year for literacy working sessions. So the teachers had an opportunity to join small subcommittees of interest of what they wanted to do. So because we have implemented with wisdom, the teachers have for more than 3 or 4 years, we decided to go the same route of what is their interest, what would they like to do, what do their students need. So with small subcommittees, the teachers had the flexibility to work at their own time with other teachers throughout the district. We met at certain times and we collaborated. We touched upon what progress they've made. We offered some feedback back. We collaborated on concerns that they had, questions. Some of the ideas were foundations, geos, co-teaching with written wisdom, writing, vocabulary. So there was a bunch of different subcommittees instead of just all on written wisdom. It was everything that they felt was interested. They provided great feedback. They loved it. They loved the flexibility of working on their time. They also loved the fact that they were able to choose what related to their teaching. That was great. So they would like to continue on working with it. And what they did work on, they're going to share throughout the district in the Google Classrooms that was established with wisdom. It's great. I'd like to do it again.
And then a question, yeah.
We
found out the
slide.
slide.
I'm just trying, yeah. God,
Sorry about that.
somehow, and if I restore it, I'm afraid I'm gonna
You'll
lose the
change
other
up
side.
that.
Yeah.
So they're gonna speak to it without putting it on the screen.
So yeah, so in, okay.
All right, so parent outreach. So with the increase of technology and the after-school activities and the sports, which is all great, the students have admitted, and we've also seen that reading at home is on the background. So us as coaches, we wanted to do like outreach next year to parents and families, whether it be at open house events, newsletters, surveying who has books at home, providing strategies of how they could help their child choose the right book, because if they're not reading at their level, they're not going to enjoy reading. So if we're able to help them with those strategies and tips of choosing that right book, finding the interest of the students, providing them with literature, providing them with the foundational early literacy skills, such as rhyming. Like sometimes that's out the door. Parents aren't rhyming with them. That's so important. Letter names, sounds, writing their own names and their last names. So just all those skills that we want to reach out. So that's our goal as the coaches, is to have parent outreach with the families and how we can get those students to read at home, because it is showing a little bit in our data, and we're seeing that they're admitting it. No, I'm on technology. No, I had sports. So we just want to find that balance, not to give up the technology, not to give up the sports and the extracurricular activities, but to find that balance to still read at home. That's our goal for next year.
I have this dream of actually like going to like Beverly Hospital, like working like from birth. Like, how do we educate literally, really, like they do this in Europe, right? Like in Europe, like you leave the hospital with books and information about educating your child. Because by the time they come to us at 5 years old, some of them are already so far behind and they haven't even started, right? And so this is part of that process. And they make some of these huge leaps that we see in K and 1, and then their lack of language and their lack of all of that early intervention that needed to happen prior to coming us really catches up with them. And so it's like, okay, grand plans, we'll do what we can here, but I'm really trying to continue to instill with parents or reinstill the fact that it is a partnership. Like as a parent, it is your job as well to do this. And we can't do it alone. Like we need their help, and that's important. So we're trying to figure out ways to get this.
Of course, then maybe they'll on that.
Yeah.
And I think to answer your question about the ML population is really just finding ways to connect. We go through class dojos, so it can be translated. We put the power into the students' hands and let them know how important it is to keep reading at home. We have Lexia as a digital option. We have things that we send through. I know that was one of my goals this year and last, just keep posting about literacy on the class dojo, and gave links that they can do story online, so they can just click on it and then there's a story. Just different things like that. We are constantly looking for ways. It's definitely a work in progress. We can always do better, but we're trying. And we've collectively decided that next year that's going to be our focus, because now we've got a little bit down. So, yeah. Any questions on this?
Math data. Superintendent Lemon is going to move the microphone over to your side of the room. Yes.
Hi.
So similar to Dibbles for literacy, we have E&I in math. And
Is it this person?
Yes, I'll start. So E&I, for those, some of you will be repeat, for others it's new. It's a one-on-one interview with kindergarten and first graders. We give 2 prompts for the benchmark, 3 times a year, that benchmark. And then we also product learn them throughout the year for 1 prompt. You can see the 3 types of skills that we are assessing during this. So just like literacy, kindergarten really is a standout. It's a real star for us. Ending the year at 76% proficient. We started off at 49. Looking over, we were starting in the red at 30. We cut that down to 16, and 76 is a huge celebration. That is the greatest I think we have seen in our time as math coaches. As Melissa said, I really do want to give accolades to our kindergarten staff. We do have grade level paraprofessionals providing interventions and groupization work in the classroom daily. We, some schools, these veterans, myself, other schools also had a 501 teacher and or tutor, and having those additional staff to take our highest need students uninterrupted, consistent every single day really makes a difference. So again, we couldn't be any more excited to share that information with you. On that page before is also first grade, and our students in kindergarten finished pretty strong last year, and as they continue to grow over the course of first grade, and we're feeling fairly good about their foundation and sending them on to second grade. We will no longer do this assessment with them, but overall, if you look at that, the red going down, it's that perfect ladder, the perfect stairs of the growth that we're looking for.
Then moving on to our fact fluency. What you see here is our first grade foundational fluency. And for those new members, I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago now, we did a book study.
The purple book, do you remember the
Purple book? It's Math Fact Fluency by Jennifer Ray Williams. And there was many math teachers, elementary math teachers. We even had, I think, a 6th grade math teacher come in and do the book study with us. And it was all about how students can learn their math facts. We are past the days of what they would call hill or flip the paper over and you have 2 minutes to answer how many questions do you get right. And we are now focusing on some manipulatives. We are focusing on strategy-based ways to solve your math facts. And within that, we've started to adopt this new process, but also we decided if we're adopting this, we need to figure out how to assess this. So we created some assessments to go along with the foundational and derived facts. And then we started first grade. That's the data that you see here. And between the teachers and the coaches, we found this information to be so predominant that we decided to do it with 3rd grade as well. But here's the first grade data that you see right now.
We presented some of this data to you last year as a pilot, so only some schools and some grade levels we tried it, and this year we adopted it across the whole district. You can see we have 2 types of it. We again, these are also one-on-one interviews that we're conducting with all first graders, but we are timing them, but they don't know it. And so we are keeping track somehow on our paper. Everybody, I think, has a slightly different system of did they get that within 3 seconds or did they not? And we have our own way of calculating that. And so you can see how they did the beginning of the year, or timed on the left and untimed on the right. So starting the year off, we only had we had a class average accuracy of 65%. This is not students, this is class accuracy. We're looking for 80% accuracy as a classroom. And we had 65% accuracy. And we now ended at 79. We just point something, we just got to our target of 80. And then for untimed, this is where students who may have
you know, they're manipulating numbers, they're maybe doing accounting on, it takes a little longer. What is 2 plus 8? Say they might start at 8, 9, they may do some counting on. We started at 82% accuracy and went up to 91.
We also have a recording sheet that we then give to the teachers. So we, as the coaches, are writing down, did they count on? Did they use cubes? Did they use tens frames? And then we give that data to the teachers. And then the teachers know what strategies their students are using or what strategies they may need more support with.
They also get our page that breaks down the type of questions that we are asking them. I'm trying to pull it up pretty quickly. There's the plus 0, 1, 2s, there's doubles, combinations to 10, 10 plus, and then the 4 categories, and you can see pretty clearly where the breakdown for a student is, whether it's a classroom with a particular skill that the whole class needs to target, or if it's an individual student with a skill that individual student needs to practice.
Our teachers as well, some of them will use this for report cards. Like I'm looking at my data right now, and I have a student that is 100% in their plus 0s, 1s, and 2s, 100% their doubles, combinations to 10 is 80%, and then their plus 10s is only 67%, so that's where they're in the red. So then the teacher will know that they should continue to work on their plus 10s, and then they could even write it in their report card.
And we have a shared drive with all teachers where they can go in by topic and target the game that matches, correlates to the skill, and they just go right into that drive and they can access that. Math leaders this year have been, or last year and this year, have been building a video library where they are video themselves and students playing the game, so they can log in. They can open that up and say, "How do you do this game? Let me watch a 2-minute video," so that sometimes that's easier to understand than reading a little descriptor. So our math leaders have been working on that too.
We're definitely sending the games home with families as well to practice for homework.
Can you tell if they're using it at home?
Register. Yeah, so some classroom teachers will have like a little form that they'll
Almost like a reading log.
Yeah, to get feedback, or hey, what strategies did you notice your student using? Yeah.
It's helpful for differentiation too. So if you have the students that are still working on the basic foundational skills, or you have the students who are 100% across the board, then the teachers can plan, derive back.
They're ready for the next level
stuff. So it's helpful to know where your students are.
I'm a parent of a now second grader, but last year I was a parent of the first grader. The binder with all the games. I would text Minnie, "Look at that video," and she would send me, "Look at this video." So, I found it helpful as a parent.
So same thing as STAR reading, with STAR math. A little different is we started in first grade. The problems are, for the most part, read to the students. So it takes out the reading aspect because we just want to measure math. And what is different, obviously, is the core domain. So we check numbers and operation, algebraic thinking, geometry, measurement, data and stats. So can they interpret graphs and data collection, and then accuracy and computation in a different way. They have the same 3 metrics though. So the scaled score, how are the students doing, the percentage rank, and SGP, student growth percentile. So a lot of it is similar. Difference is we start in first grade, whereas the reading does not, but that's your reading, you need to read.
And that first test is really tricky, just getting the first graders to log themselves in through the single sign on the clever to get there. I mean, it is. If you think back to the first couple to the most recent spring one, it's they're independent. It's a big lift to get them to be able to even log into the assessment.
And then the other side of that, kudos to the first grade teachers, is the stamina, because kids just want to cook. And so it really are those teachers that are setting those expectations. And after the first 2 or 3, we have more kiddos that are taking more time, which is important. The same thing as literacy, there's the proficiency on one side, grades 1 through 5, and then the SGP, student growth percentile. Big celebration is that first grade, so they have the highest proficiency, but they also have 63.1% SGP, so they met exceeded the high growth, which is great. And then second grade at 53.7, third grade at 45.6, fourth grade at 56.8, and fifth grade at 51.3.
So a lot of those numbers are close to that 60, so they're making moderate growth, which is great. But we're still going to work together that high growth.
Or,
Oh, Laura, go ahead.
I just have a question looking at some of the math, especially looking at the fifth grade, which looks low, and then it's also obviously then the transition moment into O'Malley. I just wondering if you could talk a little bit about why you think those are, sort of after these years of, of really, sort of ever improving math instruction, why they're almost at the lowest, at least by proficiency, in the fifth grade.
Hopefully Melissa's going to answer that in a few weeks, but I'll attempt to answer.
Yeah, no pressure.
So we've been wondering that same question. We've been thinking about that. This year, East Vets adopted or piloted or attempted to change the testing window because fifth grade takes the most MCAS in the early to middle to late May. They seem to be testing quite a bit for the MCAS. So we tried to move it to April. I believe another school was doing the same. So this year, one of my teachers said, let me try that before they get, the test burnout of all of the MCAS. So we did move our assessment to April 27th, I believe it was. And unfortunately, it did not give us the results that we had expected. We had hoped to see that higher, like, oh, it had been burnout in the past, and that's why. But our scores remained similar, so it wasn't really that. So we will continue to investigate and explore different ways that we can figure out what it might be. We were thinking it was testing burnout, but in a 1-year pilot, it didn't appear to be that.
Well, yeah. Proficiency is lower. The student growth percentile is 51 a year. But high growth.
Whoever's mic that is very hard to hear, so it breaks up. So I can't really hear. But Laura, another part of the math question is something we're taking a deeper look into next year, as far as looking at the curriculum. So that's part of what we're looking at for next year. And the other part is we are looking at, the fact that we have some strong growth across the district in all subjects and not seeing the high achievement. And that's something that we're going to talk about more in 2 weeks. I'm really
and we should highlight that they have 51% growth. So
right.
Their proficiency was lower. Their growth was still at 51 or growing.
Right. No, 100%. I'm just thinking about as they move into O'Malley and then they split into accelerated math and non-excel, it's like sort of things get harder very quickly once they get to middle school, right? It gets much more math changes. And so obviously I know it's everyone's goal that they be as prepared as possible. So I'm just looking at that also through that lens.
Math's pretty hard.
Yeah.
But that's another, one of the reasons we're looking at our math curriculum. That means there's many factors that pull into these and we make all kinds of theories. So one of the reasons next year we're taking a deeper look into that.
Mm-hmm. And maybe that is an adjustment to the curriculum is going to be next.
Maybe.
Yeah. Trial.
Thank you. And thank you for all of this work.
I did all of us. So Amy opened this for us. All year we have been exploring curriculums. We are thinking about, we will be piloting two curriculums in the fall, and we will be thinking about adopting a curriculum in the future. Okay. I'm going to jump in.
Well, our math leaders got together and we reviewed at least 11 programs. And that was a big dive for our math leaders this year.
Year long.
Yeah,
So,
all year.
yes.
We were on call with programs. We were ranking programs. We created,
Not yet, I don't think.
no, not yet.
We meet monthly with the math leaders, but monthly was not enough. So we had to offer additional drop-in sessions that we individually hosted to accommodate days and availability. And then we had additional time when they were able to, on their own with a partner or independently, review curriculums. And they were available in the conference room to drop in and explore. We had 2 rounds of that. One was more of an informal. We had one questionnaire or rubric that they had to fill out that they created of things that they were looking for as a team, or all of us as a team created. And then from that initial phase, we dove deeper into a few of the curriculums, went on calls with publishers, did that next deep dive, adjusted our surveys and questions, and that when it became clear which programs we were going to move forward with. So it was like a multi-layered exploration that brought us to the curriculums that we will then pilot.
Yeah, I think the math leaders definitely deserve a celebration because their commitment was outstanding, and not even just the drop-in hours. They were taking curriculum home and after hours really
Over
deep
vacation.
dive-
We had
deep
some
dive.
teachers signing them out over February
Yeah.
vacation, taking the
So-
bag of them home on their shoulder to review on their free time.
Yeah, they are committed to picking the best program for our students. Really remarkable.
You all know that involvement, math is also piloting next year is not the way most districts do this. Okay, someone decides, like, the telephone book plan. It's categorically, you would spend time, a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of commitment from all you folks and the teachers. Okay, that's very,
For the record on that front, when they voted from the 11 to which two we will pilot next year, I was asked, do I want a survey to answer it? And I said, no. The teachers have selected it. I did make sure all of the ones that were in contention were quality and strong curriculum. But as far as that's concerned, the next step is the teachers and the teachers team.
We developed a rubric as a team. We explored the 11 programs. We did the additional drop-in hour. We met with the curriculum representatives, and then we collaborated as a team for discussion making. There was a lot of Google surveys involved, so everybody's voice at the table was heard. And yeah, math leaders, every school was represented. I believe every grade level was represented. So everybody had a seat at the table, had a lot of weight and stake.
We are looking to expand for the pilot process just to bring more teacher voice in so that we do have every grade represented and every building represented doubly, if you will. So that will be for next year, just making sure that we have enough voices and enough different teachers.
I think the slides could have been better or on that on me. So this is what they're speaking to, is a posting will go out on Friday. And been making the posting going on Friday morning. And we are looking for classroom teachers that are willing to pilot next year. We do want at least 2 for every grade level and from each school. We do want a special education teacher and an ML teacher involved.
And I would like to highlight that we have that this year. We have 1 special education teacher and 1 ML teacher on our team all year this year, committed and fully in the process.
So we want almost double that, yeah. And they will be piloting, we will maintain math and focus as our main curriculum next year. And we will pilot 2 to 3 chapters. We'll decide as a team how many and which chapters at which grade level. Every teacher will test out both programs. And as the math coaches always do, they'll make many surveys, many questionnaires, give tons of opportunities for feedback. And at the end of next year, we will have a recommendation from the curriculum. We also are going to have an outside consultant to kind of help oversee the whole thing, that will help guide the process and have a neutral voice in the process, paid for by grant funding, just so we know, and that will help the process move forward.
Yeah, Amy did cap that they will experience both programs. They'll teach both of the programs that are on the table, as well as maintaining what we're currently using. We'll just supplement out, like take out one chapter, say fractions, and put in the other fraction chapter instead.
Our goal for this summer is to have, once we have the team together, get them into their subgroups of grade levels, go through the scope and sequence, and figure out what they think would be best to supplement where for the new.
Let the grade level representatives determine which chapters they would like to try from each program. So rather than us say you're doing 7 and 9, they can look through and say, these are the topics that we feel are the most valuable, they're the most important, they're critical at this grade level, and they can decide. Is what we are. Whatever that has next year.
This is going through, so we have early posting in June, now meetings in September, and going all through the year. We have summer work as far as training. Anything else you want to say? But the intent is to, for an adoption, full adoption, fall of 27. Yeah. Or celebrations, yeah.
So just in summary, we have a few celebrations for this year and a few things moving forward. We would just like to highlight, again, like literacy mentioned, that strong foundation in kindergarten. Over the past 2 years, really reaching towards that 80% proficient in that foundational number sense for those kindergarten students. So again, thanks to the kindergarten teams, ESPs, interventionists for helping build that strong foundation. And like Shannon said, we have been implementing the fact fluency interviews in grade 3. So we have a better understanding qualitatively of how students are working towards those multiplication strategies and where we need to intervene more, where the weaknesses are in terms of developing that quick automatic recall, because we hear all the time in grades 4 and 5, if they would only know their facts. I was going to say, Laura, that will also speak to middle school as well, if we can have them entering middle school with that solid foundation. Absolutely. And then we did have a small group work on a word problem working group starting last summer. We had training, thanks to Amy for funding some training. It was action research based. So these teachers wanted to target how to best solve word problems with their students and arm their students with some strategies and make it more of a cohesive approach while still using the math curriculum. And so we did student pre and post surveys. We collected student work and artifacts. We met monthly and they shared implementation of strategies. And so just a lot of good conversation and honing their practice on how to solve word problems and making word problems more accessible, especially in some cases for our multilingual learners. So they've developed some resources that they will then share out at future professional development sessions. Yeah. And then again, our math leaders, we're very grateful for all their hard work, monthly meetings, and this whole curriculum pilot review process. And again, we will be continuing the learning next year as they implement. That will be our main focus. Very busy.
I had a question, but I think you just answered it. My first thing that to say to all of you how thankful I am to have you in our schools, working with our students. Just a tremendous amount of work going on here and an advertisement for the good that happens in the Gloucester Public Schools tonight. My question was, and you've answered it through all your answers, is working with the teachers. There's a relationship there. You know, it's not as simple as, buddy all the time. So I'm just thinking that, but you've answered that through the work that you're doing. It sounds like the relationship with the teachers is such that this collaboration on all kinds of fronts. Maybe there was, of course, there's going to be some, bumps in the road, but is it safe to say that teachers and literacy and math coaches are on the same page, so to speak, or that as a general statement, is that safe to say?
We all have one goal, which is student success.
Yeah.
Takes a village.
That's achieved through also through our data meeting. We have that opportunity to sit with the teachers, discuss every student, look at every student's data and reflect together on the growth that the students are making, or if they're not making as we would like them to, how we can work together in order to make each student.
Something we didn't talk about is our common planning times, and we have focused students where, for whatever particular, maybe you're trying to move a student from yellow to green, or advanced group, or how, but you know, it's not always just the struggling learners, but you may have your target group of focus students for the year, which is, you know, between 3 and 5 students, say, that we get to put at common planning time and try different approaches and things that to meet that goal that the teacher has set for those particular individual students.
Our teachers really take the data very personally. You know, they carry a lot of weight on themselves. Everyone that's involved, the entire team, like, you know, it's students first, right? Like it's really about them. How do we get them to where they need to be, you know, emotionally as well, right? Feeling good about themselves as faculty, as readers. So
As big a fan as I am of the people sitting at this table today, I don't want to overlook the work that's being done in the classroom by the teachers. That I've come to the realization that it's a dual track thing. It's not a simple.
The interventionists.
We have the interventionists, the classroom teachers, they're in the trenches, they're working all day with these students, and we should celebrate as well.
we're merely guides. So many of them come to us with ideas and questions. How do we, and you don't have to spend enough time on to meet all of their needs, their students. So there's a lot of thoughtful conversation that comes out of our interactions with so many others.
And flexibility. You may find an interventionist who's been working in a particular grade for so long, and we see, oh, there's a great need in this grade now. You are going to 2nd grade.
I just want to, again, just emphasize how much I appreciate you do. I wish every citizen in the city of Gloucester watched this particular meeting and watched what's going on in the schools. Really appreciate it.
I have to give a little kudos to us. We did that, I think, in under an hour. Just honestly. Take a lot longer.
I want to thank you all. This might be we feeling good. You know, even if you're not giving the information you want to hear, you still be feeling good because you're so involved.
And so I'd like to say one of the things I've been focusing on since I joined the school committee this year was not only setting goals, but measuring them and measuring the progress. And this is really incredible what you've done here in setting up this, because that's the hard part too. You know, how are we doing and how do we measure that as we go along? So this is really great foundation. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted, I mean, you've been having presentations regularly for years now, and back to what Bill said, having people watch a presentation, this is a key presentation of how it takes different people within, you know, schools and grades, and subject areas to really make things happen for each kid. You know, I know Ben focused on last year ago, 2 years ago, that every student is everyone's student, right? It's not the special education teacher, student, it's everybody's student. The state, everything has really blossomed out where it just becomes part of the culture more so than it used to.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much.
Laura, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to say thank you. It's hard to, being online, it means some of the people are breaking up, so I couldn't hear every detail. But just thank you as always for all the hard work and all the careful data collection. And it's just always amazing and impressive.
Yeah.
Log out and log back in and see if I can fix my camera.
FYI. I did that in front of us.
It worked.
Yes. Building working okay? Building working okay?
All right. So it's an elementary heavy, evening tonight, and now we go from the coaches to the principal.
Oh, you could go whole thing. I didn't get right.
You guys need some help?
We didn't get panelists.
I was,
Dan did.
prioritized. It's okay.
Right, we know someone wants to speak now, so we'll let them do
Here, let me forward you this.
it. Then it will the reason that you silenced.
Not be on, their mics, your sound should be off.
Okay.
Tell me when you're ready to go. So, they'll introduce themselves. We have the elementary school principal here tonight.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Indeed. To, go over their school plans for the upcoming year. I'll present when you're telling me to present.
We're ready whenever.
Ready?
Yeah, whatever. Something.
Well, thank you very much for having us tonight. It's always, I know you really love the coaches and we do too. It is a hard act to follow.
I was gonna say, well, like 3 for 3 tonight, it's, wrap it up with a 4 for 4 night.
So my slides, I can pretty much say you just heard everything in my slides for the last hour. Our school improvement plan, we have 3 main goals. I'm going to talk about the goal 1, which is the Gloucester Elementary Schools will continue to provide tier 1 ELM after destruction while simultaneously working on our inclusive practices. So we want to have knowledgeable staff. We want to think about how to reach our students. We want to understand the standards and just what is good teaching that includes classroom management, it includes differentiation, understanding that by design, preparation, reflection. So all of that, our coaches help tremendously, our classroom teachers help, the meetings that we have, but that is just ongoing work that we do all the time. And so some of the action steps that we have in our school improvement plan are things you've just heard us talk about, the way we are implementing wit and wisdom, how we have implemented math and focus and responded to the needs that the different programs have had. We have, I know they didn't mention it. I don't think they didn't tell you about Scarborough's rope this time. No. So we've really worked on our foundational skills in reading through foundations and geodes, and then reading, writing, listening, and speaking, kind of that more complex understanding of language through wit and wisdom. So those two groups, the foundational skills through foundations and geodes, and then the more complex speaking, listening, reading, and writing through wit and wisdom. We continue to just refine our practice at the elementary level with those things. And then we do that through the STAR reading, STAR customs, STAR math, fact fluency, and then the foundational tests that they talked about, DIBELS and E&I. We have our data meetings, and then we work really hard to look at student growth, not just at our benchmarks, but through progress monitoring, regular common planning times with our staff, and really adjust our practice, whether it's in tier 1 or that whole group, that classroom instruction, or in our tier 2 instruction, which is more specifically designed instruction for students who haven't quite mastered what we're looking for them to do yet. And then the next slide, just kind of goes into it a little bit deeper, where, you know, we have those meetings and, you know, one of the things that has helped us really think collaboratively and vertically in our building is learning walks in our schools. So we have a lot of professional development, but one of the things that we have all really embraced and done with our staff is being able to see the good work that each teacher is doing in their classroom and being able to take things back and think about how are students engaging with this curriculum, what were the anchor charts that were helpful. And so we'll continue to do that work as we go forward. I think for us at the elementary, the big shifts, it's figuring out wit and wisdom and figuring out how do we improve in the area. Again, you heard of, actually, I didn't speak about inclusive practice very much. We are continuing to work with co-teaching and helping our special educators and our general educators collaborate more, think about best practices, how do we help our students in an inclusive setting when it makes the most sense for that. And so one of the things that we've done this year and will continue next year is really work on how do we best meet the needs of our students when they're in the classroom setting. And so that work will be an ongoing piece. The learning walks have helped, and then common planning times, but really having some specific professional development and planning or protocols around how do we get people to collaborate with each other to meet the needs of that student.
All right, goal 2. So the Gloucester Elementary Schools will continue to prioritize social and emotional needs of all students with both targeted and inclusive practices to increase the social, emotional, and mental health of our most vulnerable students. So social emotional learning is always at the key to anything that the principal and our schools work on. It really comes down to the teamwork that everyone does from everyone's school adjustment counselors, principals, teachers, school nurses, paraprofessionals. Everyone works hard at this. It's really the best way to make gains with children is working as a team. So it requires everything of us to do it. So it's something that we're constantly working at, both school-wide and then individually with students as well. And the goal is always to be as targeted as possible. So things change year to year. So, you know, this year I learned all about NEDOs.
So did I.
I have a bit of an influx of those at my building, so we're working on that as well. So you never know what's coming up. You know, we are constantly identifying students that need social skills. So that can be kids that are, you know, maybe having difficulty finding play groups out at recess, or it can be within the classrooms as well. So it's working with students on those types of things, and getting them into social skills groups with the school adjustment counselors. Those are key to what we do for our work together. So sometimes that can be through the special ed process, but it can also sometimes not be. So we're always working on our school-wide expectations. So everyone at this table, we all have things at our schools that we talk about those public areas, lunchroom, cafeteria. No, I already said the lunchroom. Cafeteria, recess, hallways, bathrooms, arrival and dismissal, and it's getting a universal language down, and so that not only for the kids but also for the teachers. So everybody's got to be on the same page. And so that's a constant thing that we work at. At East Veterans, we have Sharks, which is a series of series of ideas. So Sharks, it's an acronym: show perseverance, have integrity, active community members, respectful, kind-hearted, strive for excellence. We at Beeman, they have the Hive, At Plum Cove, they have cared. And at West Parish, it's be safe, be respectful, and be responsible. So we're always working on that with our students in that realm. So that's a lot at East Veterans. I was talking with the superintendents today, and we I've moved on. No, just kidding. I was talking to both Amy and Ben today, and we were talking about it. At year 4 for East Veterans, it feels like things have kind of started to slow down a little bit. So we're going to really be working on that universal language for hallway and expectations and things like that. So that's kind of a area we're headed in. And then finally, we're going to expand our work in the Trails program, start moving it into Tier 2, which will just mean it's just more targeted intervention for students with just higher social emotional needs. So we'll be using that program to help us there, especially with the help of our school adjustment counselors, Amy Cam, working with us as well.
So goal 3 is around attendance. Gloucester Elementary Schools will continue to prioritize attendance for all students while simultaneously providing increased Tier 2 and 3 interventions to increase the attendance of chronically absent students in order to maximize student learning and outcomes. And this is a yearly goal in the sense that you really can't take your eyes off of it. And as you work through with one group of students and work to improve their attendance, you get new groups of students who are coming into our schools, but also facing major life issues. And so all of us, are proactive in terms of giving attendance awards, emphasizing it in our newsletters, communicating each day via the secretaries, the nurses, ourselves. So we work on it daily, but then we each work on it, weekly and monthly in terms of our attendance teams, trying to understand some of the root causes, some of the patterns. The tools like Open Architects have given us a lot of insight into, we can look at per day, we can look and see that every half day we double the amount of absent kids in our schools. We can see what it looks like on Friday versus Monday. And you can look at that in terms of individual students. We look at what students miss a lot of Fridays, and so it allows us to, parents are doing the best job they can. I find like they're trying. And when you are more specific about what the problem is, like they're taking a lot of Fridays off, it's grounded in fact rather than you're not doing your job. And so we try and work that problem, and it's labor intensive. We're fortunate to have really great partners with our teachers, but secretaries, nurses, Carmen in district office, and if you switch the slide, this is our attendance rate for this year. The district average is just the elementary schools there. And you can see that there's kind of a very close proximity amongst all of our schools. And I think you see what we live throughout the year, right? We always start out good and our new school closed, and you can see that things like illness hit Beeman in January, and they hit Plum Cove in March. And those they do come in waves, and it's amazing how something seemingly small, like kids getting sick, all of a sudden really can put you off track. And our teachers feel this every day in terms of when those kids are absent, they're trying to catch those kids up the next day or the next couple days. And, it speaks just to the work that our coaches are doing in terms of being able to monitor their academic data while, trying to, other people are monitoring their attendance data. Please switch the slide again. And this is our chronic absenteeism. We spoke about that in the goal, which is it was 16.9% last year. The state average about 20%, and this year is down to 14.8. percent. And, again, there's every child, and this is some kind of school because of illness or family commitments, et cetera. But in particular, we have a number of students that we're always working to partner with those families to bring that down. And what I always say is if you're missing 30 days of school this year, my goal isn't to get you to zero. It is about me working with those families of what, we want to cut that in half. We want to take this step by step. We have a long-term partnership with these families. And again, not casting blame, but trying to understand what's going on. Also, what the expectations are. Kids need to be in school. And how do we do that work and keep families as our partners? So there's a lot of people in our schools doing this kind of work. A lot of it's not very glamorous. There's oftentimes confrontation in terms of trying to figure out what's going on. Again, it's one of those things that we just can't keep our eye off though.
Right, and just to close things up, just to recap what some of my colleagues have talked about tonight, there's not a lot that's brand new in terms of a brand new initiative. I mean, the big new thing for next year will be finding that math curriculum and doing some piloting and figuring out what's going to work best for our students. And that's new news, right? I think we've come before you on many occasions and talked about all of these other pieces that we've talked about tonight. But each year we come with a different sort of sub-focus within each one of those, or a different level of intensity. So, we're increasing inclusive instructional practices. Last year we took on group teaching. This year coming up, we'll be expanding it. We're adding more grade levels. We're adding more classrooms. We're adding more in terms of professional development to our teachers' repertoire of what they're able to do. There's 6 different models, and they're becoming more expert in each one of these models and knowing just when and where to apply that model to get the best bang for their buck. So we're deepening the work that we began. In Wit and Wisdom, we're deepening our work. We've been at Wit and Wisdom for a few years now. Our teachers are comfortable. And so we're learning where we need to tweak that curriculum to make sure that we're bringing in aspects of the writing instruction and strengthening that. That's been something that we haven't put as much attention on as we've learned the curriculum itself. And so now we have the wherewithal to be able to add that onto our plate. Excuse me. So I think the good news is we got it right a few years ago because we picked priorities that really need a lot of intense focus. And each year we pick off enough that it's something that's manageable and something that's doable. And then when we get really good at that, we're able to add on something a little bit extra. So again, I feel like we come before you and say many of the same things, but if you really listen, each time we're going that level deeper to make sure that we're sticking with it and that we're making improvements and that we're learning as we go to make sure that we're giving our students the best that we have. Thank you very much for listening to our presentation. Thank you.
I have a question on absenteeism. So you're saying even if half day, like in the middle of the week, significantly higher.
Like a casual look at, like, I was looking at it the other day and, I'll go from, the elementaries will go from 57 to 110. But that's not, like, again, that's including middle school and high school. Like, I didn't look at their data.
I think the half days present a problem for families in terms of the management of childcare. So if they can't figure that out and grandma lives in the next town, then that's where they send them for the day and they don't figure out the 11:30 visit. Good question.
So we had my last meetings this morning. Jody said something. But the important thing she said was this, but she's working numbers differently first. She had not worked with teams, especially on the class. In other places, we would all see tonight, different principals, different schools, have to adjust. By doing that, these folks, many credit them, they work together in many ways, they put it out in so many ways, and they're also smart enough to work on a plan together, have the same plan across all of them. Because, you know, in that collaboration and teamwork of strength, but also we have, you know, families and students in school. So, whereas a number of years before I was here, you know, the different schools have different approaches in ways. But thanks to their leadership, their collaboration, their teamwork, and working with district, that's what we do. Credit, you're doing credit. They schools and we got he said protocol always own schools for this.
Thank you.
Been a very strong thing for them. Area. Including when you were.
I would,
Yeah. So on introductions that we approve our school improvement.
Chair Clancy.
Yes.
Mayor Lundberg.
Yes.
Mr. Melvin.
Yes.
Prince.
Yes.
Ms. Liakos. Leeson.
I heard.
Ms. Staples.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you.
Yeah.
Okay. We have the budget update and budget presentation.
No. Jeez.
Please give slide 1 through 9.
Those were before. Yep. So as we say, everything we do, every day matters, everybody belongs, every student learns. We don't talk a lot about that tonight. You know what we're building, but I'm going to say this one more time. Okay, don't worry, hang in there, everybody. We're building high quality, engaging instruction and support developing deep learning and high academic achievement across districts. You've heard a lot about that tonight. Okay, and all the work we do on the many levels. There's a case for high quality work, coherent support for staff on how to implement those expectations. And accountability for effective practice. We're thought about that tonight. The fair and health system procedure, the resources, the staff, and articles. Really good examples of what we're building towards and what we're working on. These are our goals, as you know very well. But of course, it's built in that. And then our long-term budget needs. This will change, but it is the guide of where we're building forward and what we believe the staff and program may need adjustments. Final budget work, okay, of course. All right, so just not the public hearing anymore. Sorry about that. And the FY20 budget, which we're yearly on, will enable us to continue to provide rich educational experience every day for every student. It may not be just what all of us wanted, okay, but we'll continue to do that. The staff do that, we can do it. We can do it without part of every person. So there's some numbers that have changed, some numbers that haven't. Okay, our costs haven't changed. It's out of tuition and out of transportation. The numbers have not changed. This is just year over year, and these haven't changed either. Did you know that, of course, that over the course of the coming year, these things could change, but, you know, but with our projected budget, the city budget is what we're spending right now. And this last week, nothing changed on that. Health insurance, this has still have some small modifications that are budget finalized, with additions that go or stay. At this point, we're not showing you any lists on that, but just know that we're focusing on here in a small way. This is also the same in terms of the summary of the primary cost changes, giving a summary of where we see ups and downs. Okay. And this is where we start to see some changes or beginnings here. Okay. These are just the different pieces. Okay. The mayor and city council work together, increase funding by $3,000. This is still new news because it was announced last Tuesday. And also there's been a public hearing about it as well. And also the city is covering the cost of one-time paraprofessional payment as well. And so that means that this math equation, we said a level service increase will be $2.75 million. Okay. Paraprofessional payment for the city, $150,000. And the mayor controls the council, which is now $1.5 million. It does still leave us, as I think people know, with a gap of $1 million. That looks for different modifications in here because the bottom line number is now $5,778,897. Okay, so some minor modifications in salary benefits here for the most part. Okay. And then this is changed as well in terms of the last column there. It corresponds with what the mayor proposed. But the city council is considering, well, the paper at the public hearing. These are the 8.5 positions that are eliminated. So the two that hadn't sort of named will reduce our school nurses by 1.0 FTE. We're still working on how that will happen with the nurses union. And then we'll also be reducing from 3 administrative assistants to 2 at the middle school. Change.
So you said these positions have been eliminated?
No, these are the original positions that we sorry, thank you. These are the original positions, the full number, okay, and this is before the changes based on new information with the city, with the city before, with the city budget, city schools and stuff. So this is just the universe when from think about the where we were with 1.35 million, 1.05 million.
And you said we've added a nurse to this?
Yeah, so I think you'll remember that 8.5 was always the number, but because we were discussing with the union, that wasn't public, I didn't name 2 positions. Okay, so that's the change now. That's the nurse FTE.
Number didn't go.
Number didn't change. Number didn't change. Just the position list here. I added those 2, but number didn't change. 1.5.
Was a nurse, what else?
And then mainly we're going from 3 administrations to 2.
I thought that was already in
No, it's the principal's part.
there. Okay, got it.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So just because it's really choppy, the audio, so I just wanted to go back to what Melissa just asked Ben, because I couldn't understand Ben's answer fully. So given that how have the cuts changed, given the additional funding? And someone else will probably have to say it because Ben's mic, there's something with Ben's mic.
Thank you, Cody. I'm hoping this is better. Please tell me this is better. Can you hear me better now?
That's better, yep.
Good. I think the new mic is not as good as the old mic. It's before the old mic broke. Anyway, so at this point, this list has not changed other than what I described, okay? But because of the additional dollars, additional funding, some of this will change, okay?
It will change, okay.
But I was anticipating input from the committee input from B and F, okay? You know, so that's why this is where we stand in terms of, budget process.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Make sense? That makes sense. So that's where we are. And then these are just slides you've seen before. I do want to highlight that, and I shared this, a while ago, but, combined with the 2024 staff cuts and the sort of reductions and reallocations last year, especially on that in preschool. So we're at this before we cut any positions going to FY 27. We're down 20.7 positions from 2 years ago. Okay, I'm clarifying that for folks because there was some question. Even to the point where some people were saying, a small number of people were saying that we've gotten all the positions we cut 2 years ago, we have back. That's just not true at all. Okay, we're down 20.7 from the 23-24 school year.
But the positions we hired aren't the same positions that we lost.
I'm just talking total number of positions.
Yeah, so we're just talking numbers, not,
I'm talking total number.
not support.
Yeah, no, there's ins and outs, we might reallocate, we reallocated
Right.
paraprofessionals from one place to another, or we changed, we upgraded, positions from program leaders to administrators, okay? But in terms of total number of positions we had in the school,
Yeah, yeah.
okay, we're 20.7 fewer than we were, 3 fiscal years ago.
Right now, before these.
Right now, before the cuts. Okay.
So it'll be that number plus.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And just so on this number here, we're working towards, having it, three more positions back. 3 more teacher positions back. We're not sure we're going to do that way. Okay. There will continue to always be, changes and sort of stuff and new information that comes. But that's where with $300,000 added to the school's budget, the city council process and the mayor. That's what we anticipate, something in the neighborhood of 3 positions being brought, of these not being done. So that's what we have in terms of the budget update. And then this is the remainder of the process. City council votes on June 16th, next Tuesday, and then it comes back to the BNF subcommittee the next day on Wednesday 17th, and this will be the final vote on the 24th. Any questions? Clarifying.
So city council vote Tuesday.
Yes.
We'll have BNF Wednesday and discuss. Or at.
Yeah.
Specific positions and.
Yeah, and we also, not all, so we need to make this decision pretty soon. We're ready to do.
Yeah.
But I was hoping tonight and also BNF that, have input that the committee, well, I'm offering.
Make an offer.
Well, I mean, like, offer forward.
I would like to see the cabinet design position reinstated. That project-based learning touches a lot of kids, impacts a lot of families. We all have furniture from that in our house. If you had a student go to high school, I would like to make that a priority, even though saying that sounds difficult because there's so many priorities on the list. But I would just like to put that issue rest. That's
I-
my want.
Can I?
Go ahead.
Sorry. I just also want to at least re-examine, steps that are going to make larger class sizes in 8th grade and eliminating a house there. I know the structure is complex, but I'd like to look, it just feels like, O'Malley is struggling to sort of find its feet and to sort of have larger class sizes and one less house that year feels like going backwards at a really important step before high school. So I'd like to look at that.
Larger class size, like what are they now?
They're 20 plus or minus a couple.
Yeah.
And you're now taking, adding 5 on average to each class. But that, you'll still have variation with like 27 to 22 type of thing, I expect to be more than that, but always, it's not exact science, depending on how the group is, but that's about what we expect.
And there's a lot of work that goes into who's in class, right? So that can assist with a larger classroom, sorry, of the classroom, right?
Yeah, when you reduce, from 10 to 8 classrooms at 8th grade, it reduces some of the flexibility, but that's what they try to do anyway, with each house.
Miserable. I'm just gonna say it, it's miserable. This is my experience this year. 5 kids is not, you're not guaranteed 5 perfect angels, no learning issues. You are getting 5 random students with different levels of ability, and it's a lot of work, and it's not good. It's not ideal.
And just, I wasn't trying to like gloss over.
I know.
No, it's fair. I just want to give you the numbers, but I'm not trying to characterize what it's like.
I have a little bit of PTSD from this, but I feel like I have listened to school committees say, we can make this work. Yes, everything will be fine. And as someone who is living it, I'm telling you, it's, yes, you can make it work, but it's not fine. Making it work is not an acceptable policy for anyone in a classroom with 5 students, let alone 28. So, I need to get that out.
So I think of negligence, the law, like that's embedded in who I am, right? So with the loss of the language, I forget what her position was. So she spoke at the public hearing at the high school. Right. So I should just put it this way. Are there any positions on here that are going to put us in a position of not being in compliance or not meeting regulations for the required education we have to provide?
That one doesn't impact that.
That one doesn't.
Specifically.
Okay.
No, when we make choices, like the choice we're making on multilingual services or support, okay, is based on, the numbers of students, having fewer students who have those needs.
Yeah.
Okay, either because fewer students who have those needs, or because the students we have like in middle school don't have the significant needs. Okay, that's the same with the vision impairment, that sort of thing. No, the most likely area we get into compliance issues would be special education, and there essentially no police reduction, especially
Because
we can't, we shouldn't notice them. Yeah.
Right. And then can we talk about reducing the tutoring? I heard the coaches talk about tutoring and how important that was in they were presented. So what is the tutoring?
They were talking about a different kind of tutoring.
Different kind.
Tutoring they were talking about is Title I tutoring, it's paid out of Title I funding.
Okay.
And it was completely grant dependent, so hopefully next year we'll have Title I tutors, but that would be grant dependent. But the tutoring on there is MLS tutoring, I believe that would be.
One thing that the state budget is being finalized, they are funding at a higher level, high dosage tutoring. We haven't taken part in that yet for a number of reasons, but something we could potentially look at, the team that we should look into to perhaps replace some of that. Yeah. So but that's an area for us to look into. And then you're looking at tier 2 services, tier 2 support. So that's a possibility.
And on the Beeman services.
Can I just
Oh,
say
sorry,
one thing
yeah,
on
sorry.
the same topic?
Yeah.
Instead of switching. And I heard, 2 years ago, we got rid of a lot of those extra supports, like the interventions. I just heard it now. It's still not easy for many students that need this extra support to have the staff
there to do it. So I'm just voicing that. Doesn't necessarily impact these positions, but as you've said many times, none of these courses are, and none of them are.
Thank you. On the third grade, goes to 2 classrooms instead of 3. What are the, how many students does that put in?
There'll be 21 in each class.
It'll put 21 in each class.
Yeah, which is, it is typical. We have that in.
Can I say something about that one? Just as a sort of an overall, like, I can see why that makes sense by the numbers. But that teacher is like much beloved throughout that school. They worked with 5th grade before this. And I just want to sort of point out that like, it's sort of losing part of the fabric. So I know that we can't go teacher by teacher, but it just speaks to, I understand the numbers for this 3rd grade for the next 3rd grade are smaller, but it's also pulling out a really much beloved and appreciated teacher who's a part of the fabric of the school. And that's just really difficult. I know these are all really difficult decisions. And all of the schools are going to struggle. And it's just hard to keep pulling at these fabrics, I guess, is what I want to say. These are communities. And we all know that. And pulling out pieces of these communities, hurts the community and hurts the students.
My follow-up, and I seem to be focused on Beeman ML services reduced to 2 full-time educators at 2.5. So is that a half a lot? That's basically a half a lot. Right? Half. Okay, and then
again, as we look at that, it's okay. Keep continuing to look at number of students.
Yeah. A minute ago, you said, well, we've lost some ML students. Is the need not what it
Numbers are down
significantly?
slightly even.
Okay, that's what
At O'Malley, I think he was referring to the loss of the ML people there. The numbers have gone down, and the language acquisition.
Yeah.
So we went as deep as looking at what level the students are. Half of the students have a higher language acquisition, so we're going to service them inside the classroom instead of pulling out. None of these are good decisions. None of these are like, I want to do decisions. We're making the best worst decision. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, just one more thing. I want to echo Melissa's statement about the cabinet design. It seems to be a lot of support is the wrong word, but a lot of people have benefited from that class. And I think we'll take a closer look at that for sure.
Mindset is something else, but I feel the same way. Like you're saying, it has a hat and everything else. But what I was going to say was, you have mentioned quite a few grants that are granted to that. I know you utilize a lot of grants. Do you feel that there are grants we're not utilizing out there? Are we really going for as many as you can? I know we don't have a grant writer. You seem to be our grant writer. City doesn't have one.
No, ABCAM does
ABCAM does that. Oh, okay.
Of our grant.
For Brett and Brenda Wasser.
Okay.
Yep. Brenda Wasser does a lot. I have done my fair share as well.
Some teachers do.
Was that?
Right, yeah.
I don't think he's currently doing it. He's probably done some in the past. But we have several people that do grants. Mike Travis says the IDA grant, absolutely. I do the title grants. I do all of those.
And of course, GEF is individuals as well as the district.
Yeah, so we have a lot of people that do grants. We try to put things on the grants that are sustainable. So it's really hard to put teachers on a grant because if we have a grant for a year and then the next year we don't have the grant, we get this wonderful teacher acclimated and then we have to let them go, right? So, for example, Title I, we did adjust. We used to have 6 teachers on the grant. We lost some of the funding and level went down a little bit. And so we dropped to 3 teachers. We still maintain and hope to maintain next year 3 teachers on the Title I grant. But we have some tutors on there that are very consistent and amazing in practice, but if we lose them, we're not losing a teacher, we lose that grant funding. So we're cautious of what positions we put on the grant. The grant funding that you heard about that played for that wonderful PD, that took our own staff and just enhanced them, right? So that's a really great use of a grant. That particular grant also paid for a lot of our PD for implementing wisdom over the years and that kind of thing. It was a literacy grant.
Yeah, I think it's important for the mayor and the council to understand that you are really going.
Yeah, in the IDA grant, we do have some staff on that, not paraprofessionals, I know.
Yes, so you try to be strategic with grants.
Yeah.
So for example, instead of having teachers on the IDA grant, get a retirement
And
as well.
NTRF, yeah.
So that can be a significant amount of money. So really you want to leverage as much of the grant so that you don't have to pay those extra costs. You use it to pay paraprofessionals. So the more money you can use that to take off the operating budget onto a grant is a good strategy. And that's not the only grant that you do that with. Those are the changes that happen.
But the IDA grant is a lot more stable than some of the others. So
Yeah.
that, so
Depends
to
timing.
put power on that, I don't want anybody listening to think that power is on it, that's it. That's a strategic move and more stable than other schools.
Actually, Heather, it's a great question. I actually worry we're too dependent on grant. Okay. Yeah, so, no, it's, you want us to, the most secure, even in difficult times, the most secure budget is still, comes from the city and the state operating budget. And again, that still has its challenges of experience, okay? So that's one thing, and we do utilize grants, significantly, and I think we do quite well because the reason that Mike and Amy talked about, we were able to 2 years ago, maybe, I think 3 years ago, we added a grant coordinator position on the financial team. And that position is only paid by taking a portion of each grant, essentially. Because that's what she's working on. And the reason that our finance team recommended that to me and I recommended to the committee was because the grants take so much management financially and reporting and compliance and through the audit process. But again, that position pays wholly through taking a portion of each grant essentially. But it's really an important position, so our staff who are writing them, our folks who are supporting those folks who are pursuing grant, and then our financial team all have to work together because the grants take a lot of just compliance and management on many levels.
Our portion of our professional development is paid for, the bulk of our professional development is paid for Title II grants, Title IV grants. We have some ML support that, technology and software support that helps maintain and tracks their data. It's called Elevations, and it is also professional development for our teachers. That's on a Title III grant. So we try to take those kind of things off of an operating budget. So that's why when we look at cuts, there's not a lot other than staff to cut because we place the majority of those things in grants when we can.
I think this is a really important conversation to have because when you have so many things that are grant funded that you're really relying on, it becomes your operating budget because you need this money to exist. And I think just the general public does not understand what it costs to run a school system and how much money is coming from not your city. It's coming from grants, which is really just lucky. It's lucky. And it's a gamble because you don't know that you're going to consistently get that. I think about things like our elementary school band program that is funded by the GEF. If a donor decides I'm not funding that this year, that program it's gone because we don't have any way to absorb that cost. And I think I would actually love to see how much of our district is funded through grants and see what do we pay for and what does someone else pay for that we are fully dependent on and lucky to receive, because I think that would be probably very astonishing.
So just to follow up on that, Cody, in the budget book, there's a full accounting of the different grant sources. I mean,
Yeah, the major grants, and Academy grant and other state and federal that outline. No, not private, no private grants, but federal and state, both entitlement and other ones that we have formally usually get are in there, and it breaks it down how much, how much is ordinary expense that we're using with it, and how much is personnel expense, so on and so forth, so it's good to break down that.
So it would make sense maybe during BFE, the next year, to also have the private grants as well.
Yeah.
GS specifically in the same area. You don't have too many other private grants, but still added that. They would go in the budget book, but I mean, or at least to make that, this report out of it.
Right, and thankfully, not many private grants are, we're relying on for salary, which
Right, yeah.
is great, but obviously.
But still,
The enrichment
yeah.
of.
Yeah, I think you,
the
speaking
public schools, but.
I think voice probably one of the ones that's, of most concern, honestly. The elementary grant program and some of your middle school band too, right?
Yeah.
School, yeah, what I lauded earlier tonight, recognized, so that's probably one of the ones that.
Positions on the private grant, auto.
Yes,
being
they
an
came out
example.
Yeah.
And we have finally got it onto the operating budget. Medical assisting is, Brenda's was on a grant fund and now an operating.
Right.
Medical assisting is currently on the grant.
Yeah.
The science coordinator is currently grant, the position.
Thank you.
One thing, criminal justice program at the high school.
So that's an elective, started by, one of the teachers. So
So no one can pick up that.
It's certainly possible. I just don't know the ins and outs of how that would happen. I don't want to speak for the program.
Right, no, I get that.
That's up to the high school and program leader. But yeah, that's a
Sorry, you said that it's run by a teacher who's what?
being reduced. Who's gotten noticed to lay off.
It would be encouraging to see if anybody picked that up. And then my final information request is, working with Mike Travis and building programs and bringing students back and how awesome that momentum is. Are we stopping that? Or is it able to move forward in some way? Did we bring back like 6 or 7 students? Because that could turn into a revenue, right?
Right.
People want to know what can we do to create revenue in schools where there's not much here in this district. But that could be potential revenue stream down the road, and I hate to see that impeded by the current situation.
So lack of expansion of programs, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a concern because we still have some holes, if you will, as far as programs, vertically and horizontally. So we're looking to fill those because that can provide opportunity or opportunities for children to stay in district with a meaningful, rigorous curriculum and education and community, not have to be outsourced instead of spending for tuition and transportation, which are multi costs that we don't have control. So yeah, there's investment in on that. That's kind of part of the variables that we have to have analysis on for what we're doing right now, circumstances in that context. The good news is for what I call level 1 inclusion, so with co-teaching, we have enough staff at the elementary level to get that level 1 and strategically placed in math and in ELA, so they're not there all day long. The classes up there, we placed co-teachers there, 2 certified teachers in 1 classroom, in for ELA and for math. So that will really help. That will gain traction, so it'll be less dependent on district programs. And also, I have a lot of colleagues that have reached out to me in my former district with programs I had there, and now they're doing it here, and they're looking for placements. So I have a very strategic and well-defined process to make sure that it's an appropriate placement if we're going to be a child and mother. Talking about, for example, we have one right now, it's $50,000. So it's just under the collaborative
tuition mark, to make it, attractable and attractive. And, so I'm getting a lot of contact with colleagues saying that.
So I'm hearing from you there's still a potential to grow our programs going forward into next year.
Yeah, there's
So can you be specific about whether it's adding programs or whether it's growing the current one?
Either one, as long as it's growing.
No, I'm asking Mike.
Yeah, yeah.
So, one more time?
No, because your question is really two things.
Yeah,
One,
I get it.
it's
Yeah.
adding programs we don't have.
Right.
And it's also growing existing programs, right? But you're asking both things.
Matching both, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that,
so one, for example, right, because the district's really calling for this is a horizontal move, so that we already have a social emotional program at Beaman, but it's the population of the program that it's getting high. It's anticipated as such. So really, we're looking to expand that kind of programming, and add a teacher and paraprofessional for take these fast. So to mirror that program, so horizontally having it at Beaman, lower and upper elementary and at ESATs, lower and upper elementary. And that's really important. We have to invest in that for the coming year, fiscal 27, to get to that.
And I
It'll be a
want,
tough decision.
thank you for that. I just wanted to ask you, if we reduce to a classroom at Beaman, does that mean it's freeing up a space?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, which is also what happened at.
So he, at her principal's office that?
We would decide that. We don't decide that. No, and that is, similar to what happened at,
Plumco.
the Plumco, I think, has that one
Yeah, that was
classroom
that.
moving, just a single in classroom. I think next year it's fourth grade, I'm pretty sure.
It was.
It's fourth and fifth.
That will resolve itself there with space to do?
At
Plum.
no, it's not at, can't remember, it's right in the rifle.
It was
But,
fourth grade.
so-
Third, you have extras, so it's gonna be a fourth grade. Yeah.
Yep, and so, no, at Plum Cove, because it's getting up to, fourth and fifth.
Yeah.
Well, the opposite challenge is after that class leaves and you'll have two classrooms, they'll lose a room. We'll have two classrooms back again at all grade levels.
Right,
So,
so we're not fixing that.
no, so that's actually the ongoing concern that we're planning for. And yeah.
And to, back on what Mike was saying, you mentioned it being a revenue source, it's really like a cost mitigation source.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, while bringing back students at least, if
Yeah.
someone worked choice in based upon program availability, that's revenue, but
Right.
cost mitigation when it comes to bringing back students.
Thank you.
So I'm just gonna say that I also am concerned about business and the immigrants. I mean, I just think big class sizes has its own pitfalls, obviously. But I think lack using the opportunities kids have available. So probably I have not given up counselors to be my last hope.
Yeah, that has to be a priority, keep that program in place. And somehow, whether it's through redesign or something.
They don't go till next week. They heard a lot of people last night. Tons of people. Hoping during the process.
Is DECA, is DECA part of the position or is it a?
So, yeah, so
position?
the different, most districts do not have DECA as a class.
Right.
It is after school. We have it as both. For both a class, period, class people, it's like plus the after school as well. So that's something that can be changed. Okay. And it probably will if we have to, if one of the ones that gets tough, if it's brought back. So, but the current teacher, the teacher who's supporting DECA now is one of the ones who's been, it's a reduction. I'll say this is that, the ones that folks are mentioning are the ones that we're, most closely considering as well. And, both you and us are considering too many. So, but there's, it's hard to explain how much the four of us and others, you know, and Hunter and who at the table tonight, you know, are sort of thinking through all the various possibilities, okay? And you know, we get new news about a student or a placement, you know, almost daily as well. On all those pieces, you know, gotta be sorted through. So just want you to know our eyes are very much on this, you know, and we'll also continue looking at, you know, and I just talked to Amy later today, I think, you know, one more, you know, close look at, you know, there things other than, you know, expenses other than positions. Explain to you on a pretty limited, but we'll look at it for the 34th time. You know, because every $100,000 was from the city council, whether it's from what we can find, you know, there's a position. But you know, they're trained because most of our dollars are, when we're talking dollars of hundreds of thousands, that's you know.
Do we have a figure from money that's coming to the city under, what was the student opportunity act?
Yeah, so we're setting at a minimum contribution district. So we're in the sixth year of FY27.
Yeah.
In the sixth year of the student opportunity act increased funding. But for the last 2 years, really including FY27, it's been that sort of minimum spending. So what you're seeing, and they're calling it student opportunity act, but really is, for example, the governor proposed, I think, almost $700 per student for chapter 70. And the House and Senate both recommend $160. That's the student opportunity act. You know, that's what is qualifying as student opportunity act funding at this point. It's just chapter 70.
So I guess what I'm trying to get to, and I'm gonna look at the mayor to have this conversation. So, because I don't know everything about what goes into the development and the projections of your budget. I've never been privy to see that involved in it. So you built your budget for the city based on projections of state funding coming in. And you don't have those final figures now, or do you?
Find out.
Okay, I don't think you do, because we haven't heard exact figures yet, usually we hear about that. So I guess my question to you is, if for some godforsaken reason, the funding comes in higher than you projected, school money comes in higher, would you be willing to pass that on to the schools? Just a thought. You don't have to answer it, because I know you're not going to answer it, but just.
We've had other administrations make that commitment.
Yeah, I think it happened
A couple
2 years
years ago,
ago.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think we ended up getting like 300,000.
No, not that
Not
much,
much?
but still,
Okay.
it was.
Something
In
was
the
three
tens
hundred
of
thousand, it might have been an increase in, Duxbury or something. But would you consider that? You know, I'm just asking you to think about that. In other words, whatever your projections were, and it's chapter 70 money, student opportunity money. I mean, there was 1 year, there was a big jump in student opportunity money, and it didn't come our way. But would you commit to that if that happened?
I just don't know what the timing is.
But you can always give us money. Doesn't matter if it's
Well,
September, October, November,
I'd
we'll
love to
take it.
give us money.
Yeah.
But we can't, don't have.
So that's what I'm saying, if it comes in at a higher projection than what Connor projected in the budget, and it is identified as a school funding source. Gonna be watching. And free cash money too.
Well, we're not making any decision. I mean, tonight was a good opportunity for us to come and talk things through. We're not.
We'll talk more at being now, get more information. Because we'll have a number next Wednesday. So we'll need to discuss that and make the recommendation to the school committee for the final hearing, the final vote on the 24th.
Yeah, pretty late.
Always is.
Not always. But yeah. Yeah, that's what we want to do.
Haven't given up on our city councilors.
It's really-
working hard.
We have no subcommittee reports. Under action, we have something Andrea brought forward, which is consideration of a letter in support of retirement plus legislation, which impacts teacher retirement. So I'm going to turn it to Andrea. Hi, Superintendent.
You have in your packet both bills, and then this is a letter that the North Shore superintendent submitted a little while ago.
Yeah, so for Retirement Plus, in 2001, a number of educators were locked out of Retirement Plus. So instead of being able to contribute 11% towards their retirement, they were only able to contribute 9%, which is a significant amount of money over a career. A lot of those teachers are nearing retirement age, and there's legislation right now that would potentially allow them to do a one-time buyback, which is kind of advantageous for school districts. If you're a veteran teacher, you are logically a little bit more expensive than a newer teacher on the salary schedule. And this one-time buyback opportunity could lead to some veteran teachers retiring a little bit sooner, leading to a savings and the ability to potentially retain positions or a higher new, depending on what your district circumstances are. Right now, the legislation, there's a version in the House and in the Senate. They're a little bit different. And I believe that what's happening next is a conference between the two bodies that will hammer out their differences, but this is as close as they've ever been to passing this legislature. And I think it would be great if we could consider sending a letter in support of passing the legislation, just like superintendents have.
And then the letter you have, so where they are right now is both the House and Senate have passed separate bills. Actually quite a bit different. I don't know if it was guide you on what the differences are, honestly. I really need to be writing this point for the conference committee, members, I'm sorry, and expressing your, if you choose to, expressing your support.
Is it getting positive feedback from both sides with just a different plan, or one want to do it and one doesn't?
Oh, no, they both have passed bills to support it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just different stipulations in terms of, timing and thing, buyback, that's what I think. I don't.
So our letter would be to support it, which they already did.
Oh, I know, in this sort of situation, when they're at conference committee, typically an advocate, in this case yourself or anybody else, would write a letter saying this, not this, these parts, not these parts.
Exactly.
And that can be, one version of the bill, House versus Senate, or that can be different parts of each one. That makes sense.
What is the funding impact to the school district itself if this happens?
There's no.
It's just a matter of being able to buy into a buyback, right?
Yeah,
Right? Buyback,
it's
so.
helping the individuals, and that could be administrators or maybe the superintendent's letter there talks about the benefits from the superintendent's perspective to the district. And that's really something you already said, Andrea, which is, the ability to perhaps have some savings because, it helps, folks retire sooner than they plan. And that's always, just numbers. You usually hire folks who are, lower salaries because they're newer. So that's really one of the efforts.
Thank you. So would it make sense that we would send a letter in support of House or the components of House 4361, which is what at the time that I brought this paper to add it to the agenda, this had not gone through yet. So they just recently approved it in the Senate. So I need to do a little bit more digging to look at both bills and see what would make the most sense to be in support of.
So, I don't know if I feel comfortable taking a position on anything other than we agree to get buyback. I wouldn't wanna, I don't know that it would be fair to us if we don't all agree with.
No,
the
and
dynamics
again,
of the
at the time
language.
that I brought this up,
definitely
they had
support
not,
the-
yes.
Yeah,
We weren't here yet.
okay.
So,
So it would be a letter to the conference committee now,
yes.
and or that we support,
Whatever plan they come up with.
yeah,
If it allows, that group to buy that.
so we'll have to figure out.
Yeah, we can probably table.
Draft the language.
Yeah.
And
I think we should table this because we don't seem to have enough information.
24th, we are talking. Go ahead, Laura.
I'm sorry. I just said I think we should take, I mean, it feels like we still need a little more information before we take a vote. That's at least my feeling on this.
Yeah, no, I don't think we should vote on it. I think we should wait until our next meeting and have a second conversation about this.
okay.
Yeah, I think that's
Did
right.
we vote on this before the end of June?
I don't know.
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know.
But you might want to, if you want to go forward, I think someone should come in and the draft.
Right,
So
so that we know what we're voting on.
Okay.
That'd be helpful to get.
Yeah, so we'll grab something for 2 weeks from now. All right. Because I'm hearing kind of general support, but we need a specific letter for people to. Okay, I move that we accept the Gloucester Education Foundation O'Malley Courtyard Design Phase Grant, the disbursement of $250,000.
You want to be clear about this, is that, they have.
Second,
Go
ahead.
You've already accepted this grant.
Yeah.
This is just, and they're gonna give it certain different levels of, over time, just disperse it to the schools. Because the MOA you voted on last time, they're giving, some of the rest, not all, the rest of it to the school's account. So that we can get a contract on with the design firm and then get the work done. Yeah, so it's not typical for us to have disbursements this way, but you're now accepting the rest of it.
You still get the interest on this money?
Well,
But we gotta move to the interest-bearing account.
yeah.
We want that. Every little bit.
Good question.
Or we can talk about this.
You can, yeah, in your hand.
Okay.
City meeting comment.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been moved and seconded. Think that discussion. Vote, please.
Chair Clancy, Mayor Lundberg,
Yeah.
Mr. Melvin,
Yes.
Ms. Prince, Ms. Diego,
Yes.
Ms. Weason,
Yes.
Ms. Davis.
Anybody have any new business? Hearing none. Okay, so we are going to go into executive session, and we will come out only to adjourn. So I move that we enter executive session pursuant to executive session purpose 3 of Mass General Law 30A, section 21A, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with Gloucester Teamsters Local Union number 42 Food Service Workers Union, the Teamsters Local Union number 42 Transportation Workers, Gloucester AFSCME Clerical Unit A, and Gloucester AFSCME Clerical Unit C.
So I'm doing a point of order on the absence.
We'll remove it.
Within 48 hours.
Is that both?
Yes. That's why I'm, oh, sorry. That was amended yesterday. You have to have 48 hours.
Okay.
Unless it's an emergency.
So my motion to go in, just to remove the last part, the Gloucester AFSCME part. Thank you.
Chair Clancy.
Yes.
Mayor Lundberg.
Yes.
Mr. Melvin.
Yes.
Ms. Prince.
Yes.
Diego.
Yes.
Ms. Weason,
Yes.
Diego.
Yes.
Okay, we will only come back to the meeting to adjourn.